hide and speak.
Hey everybody, we're vp.net. Welcome to Hide and Speak. We stream every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Our topics are privacy, free speech, and internet freedom. These topics affect us all, personally and at scale. What you can expect are Q&A, ask anytime with the capital letter Q, colon, at the start, and then, put a space and then put your question, and we can select it and put it up on stream. We ask each and every one of you, if you would like to join us on stream, you can join the panel anytime. Just shoot us a message and we'll get you squared away. What not to expect from us: we don't discuss religion and no partisan politics. So, disclaimer: the opinions expressed by members of our panel are their own personal opinions and do not necessarily reflect the views of Hide and Speak or vp.net. So I just want to introduce myself. My name is Shane. I'm the Chief Operating Officer behind vp.net. And we're doing a bit of a big thing here with this stream that we're aiming for, to have give everybody a voice. And I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
Hey, Chris Miller. I'm from vp.net. I'm CMO, and I'm really excited to be here today. Love talking about privacy, and I'm very excited to hear what Dr. Jon Padfield has to say today.
Thank you, Chris. And then Nathan, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here this afternoon. Very excited to have Jon on today. And I work in the design and marketing department and vp.net, and excited for this episode.
Definitely. I think the excitement's definitely there for all of us. How are you doing today, Susie?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm happy to have Jon here. Hi, Jon. And very excited because I stand for privacy.
Wonderful, wonderful. And privacy is a great thing. So we are very excited to introduce our first special guest on Hide and Speak, Dr. Jon Padfield. Dr. Padfield runs a YouTube channel called Business Reform, discussing the intersection of business, technology, and society. He posts a lot of great content about topics we'll be discussing today and more. So over the weeks, you can expect more of these. He's a business professor at IU Columbus, former Indiana State Representative, and former electrical design engineer for GM. So he has a diverse background that gives him a great perspective on technology, business, and politics behind surveillance technology. Jon, welcome to the show. We're really happy to have you.
Thank you. And after that introduction, I feel like a celebrity. I normally don't feel like that. Thank you for that warm introduction.
Well, thank you for being here. And to feel like a celebrity, to us, you are a celebrity because we do value the voice. We value privacy. And it's something that, me, Chris, Nathan, Susie, and many others, like, we read about this every day. It's our job. And so I look at the key things that I take away from things are the technology behind things. My brain has to know how these things work, and not just how they work. I need to see how they work and how they affect us all in society, and not just society, but even affect us at the company levels, affect us in our personal homes and things like this. So it's one of these things that I just cannot look away from. We see what's going on in the world. It is straight up 1984. It's not something I agree with. I do actually have an issue with that. And there's a lot of people out there that have issues with these things as well. And that's kind of why we want to give people a voice, that you grow up having this love for technology and this love for how things connect and how they work and how you can utilize them. And to see what is coming to today is just, it's a shame. It really is. So today we're discussing the state of surveillance in 2026. And we're going to start off with a quote from Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle. State of surveillance from Larry Ellison. During an investor call, Larry Ellison said that the AI models trained on your private data will be even more valuable. This is an excellent topic, and it was recommended by Dr. Padfield. So let's start with you. Can you give us some more on this?
Unfortunately, I can give you a lot on this. And I say unfortunately because I disagree adamantly with the goal that Larry Ellison has publicly stated. His statement was, "We will have supervision." This is a direct quote. "We will have supervision. People will be on their best behavior because they're going to be recorded all the time." And then he went on to say that AI is going to be constantly monitoring video streams. And he specifically said those video streams are going to come from dash cameras, doorbell cameras, body cameras. I'm trying to remember what the fourth one was, but he mentioned 4 different video streams. And this is going to constantly be analyzed by AI. And because we all know that we are under surveillance 24/7, you step outside of your door, you're on camera somewhere. And our AI overlord, that's my term. He just said AI, but he said that the AI is going to be surveilling us, and that's going to force people to be on their best behavior. And I have so many visceral reactions to that. My very first thought, can you show me one prison in the United States that does not have any crime? Because inside of a prison, there is no Fourth Amendment. Prisoners have zero privacy. They are strip searched. There are bars. They have zero privacy. There are security cameras everywhere. And murders still take place. Sexual assault still takes place on female inmates, not by fellow prisoners, but by the people watching all of the surveillance gear. So if cameras prevent crime, then our federal prison should be utopia. There should never be any crime or any violence inside of a prison because there's cameras everywhere. So that was my first thought. My second thought was, I don't recall voting for you. In fact, I don't even recall seeing your name on a ballot anywhere. Who gave you the right to decide that I'm going to be monitored every time I leave the house? And I don't recall anyone in office today running on a platform of vote for me and I will spend $250,000 putting up flock cameras around the city to make sure that you can't go anywhere without being tracked. I don't recall a single politician ever running on that platform. So I know that our politicians are using tax dollars to put these cameras up, but people like Larry Ellison are in the midst of implementing this dystopian nightmare without a single vote ever being cast for them.
Absolutely, and that's what's crazy about it, is that they're just going to go ahead and do these things, and it's at our expense. So we're paying for our own prison, basically, is one way of looking at it. And yeah, I was pretty upset with that quote as well, because when you know you're being watched, you change, right? And I think they know that, and maybe they have this in their minds or something, that it could be a good thing. And that's the thing, is that nothing good can come from this. And right before right before the stream started, I just randomly clicked the news, and I was looking. It showed all these different officers being suspended and or fired for abusing the flock system for their own personal, search queries and things like this. So they're using these systems to look at people and look at things that they normally wouldn't have access to, and they're doing this on their own personal time. So it's not about crime. It's about, we don't even know who has access to these things, right? There's systems administrators that can have access to these things. They have to do the upkeep and the maintenance on these things as well. So it's like, what companies out there have access to this, and what even foreign companies, when they offshore these stats to, say like India, we don't know who has access to these things. You can be walking down the street and you don't know who's looking at you, is the thing. And then it's the thing, is it's not transparent. So I have a couple questions for you, John. What do Ellison's comments reveal about how major tech leaders view privacy as a societal value, like with things like OpenAI, Meta, Facebook, Anthropic? What's your take on this?
It always feels like fingernails on a chalkboard when I read a statement from a company like Meta, and it begins with, "We respect your privacy." And I feel like I can just hear the voice of Jeffrey Epstein saying, "I respect your children." It makes about as much sense. You have a long, long history of violating people's privacy. And so when you stand up and say, "We respect your privacy," bull, I do not believe you. You have zero credibility on this because you have 20 years of history proving just the opposite. And so they do not respect our privacy. Now, there's a different question. Do they value our privacy? Yes, they are in process of strip mining it. Gold has value, but it doesn't have value in the ground. Gold has value when you extract it. And I see companies like Meta, companies like Google, companies like Oracle, companies like Flock. And yes, they see a lot of value in our privacy. And that's why they're so busy right now strip mining that privacy so they can sell it, because they can make a ton of money off of it.
And that's the crazy thing too, is they can and will sell this data, and they openly do. And it's, Reddit, just like, Sam Altman was behind Reddit, And Reddit ended up selling all of Reddit's data to Google for $60 million. They have Gemini. Sam Altman has OpenAI. These are different companies benefiting from everybody's data and everybody's information. And what it is they're all in cahoots together. I think they all understand something that most people don't. And when it comes to this, do they respect our privacy? I don't even think they respect us as human beings. I think they look down on us as just things to be dealt with. And it's kind of what my prediction and theory is with this, is that they're building that layer between themselves and the rest of us. And I can get into conspiracy theories or what my beliefs may be, but the real answer is I don't have the experience or have been around these people enough to know these things. But when it comes with OpenAI and the AI wearables, and then we just saw, Facebook, Meta has the glasses out there, and then there was an article that we mentioned before where some lady saw these glasses and ripped them off the guy's face and stepped on them, and instead of her being like charged criminally and looked at as like hey, you can't do that, she was kind of regarded as a hero. So these people are all in cahoots together, and that's the thing is I agree. Like we did not vote for these people, but that's the thing too is we don't have to, because the people that we quote unquote elected and put in power, they just work with these guys behind the scenes. And again, it just brings it back to who's benefiting and who's not. And I know we're not benefiting from this. So, Chris, I'm going to ask you, what do Ellison's comments what do Ellison's comments reveal about how major tech leaders view privacy as a societal value?
Yeah, I think John's point that something that needs to be extracted is absolutely accurate. I see this push in recent years to basically criminalize privacy and make it look, they try to assign this idea that anybody who wants privacy is trying to hide something. And if they're trying to hide something, it's because they're up to no good. And, you see it on television and movies that every time I ever see them mention a VPN, it's some criminal is using a VPN and it's the FBI, the police are like, shoot, this guy's going to kill children because he's using a VPN, and it's like, come on, man, it's not accurate at all. And they sort of trying to change it from being a societal value to something that's viewed upon as negative and make it sound like if you want privacy, then there must be something wrong with you. You're trying to hide something. And, it's not at all about that. But I think that's really what they're trying to do as far as, the view of society by society is just make privacy a dirty, ugly word.
Yeah, that is what it seems like. And here's the thing is it do be like that.
I do.
What's your take on this, Nathan? I'll ask the question again. What do Ellison's comments reveal about how major tech leaders view privacy as a societal value? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and what I wanted to bring up here, just to piggyback off what John just said to it, we value your privacy, but, and then there's a big but that comes after that, right? And, we look at, there's hundreds of cases of these Facebook and Meta employees that have used their access to the location data to then stalk and show up with people. So who really, like you were saying, who has access to this data? And how can it be used nefariously? It's not like it's only being used to catch criminals or for good. It seems like for the most part, it's used for bad things.
And that's the thing too, is we've yet to see what good can come from this. Like I'm all for catching criminals. If there's human traffickers riding around, these things are able to catch their cars. If there's bad people out, somebody escaped from prison or something, a serial killer, these types of things, right? So I can see like why the benefits could be, hey, we have to fight wicked in this world somehow, right? For evil to prevail, it means good people have to do nothing. And that's kind of what I'm looking at in today's angles is what are the benefits from these things? But here's the thing is like we don't see what these things are actually doing unless we get like a FOIA request with Flock. We don't see what these things are doing until we see the reports that come out. But when these reports come out, they just have way too much information on everybody out there, not just the people that they searched, but the people that they searched looking for these people and things. So it's not just about the violation of privacy. It's about when they use these things also to go after the bad people. And they have to, right? That's their job. They're also looking into all of the good people. People have nothing to do with the situation other than being in an area or something. And it can form many thoughts and opinions on it, and which I don't have the time to share right now. So we'll go with you there, Susie. What do Ellison's comments reveal about how major tech leaders view privacy as a societal value?
Well, honestly, you know, I've heard a lot of things about him, how he is about this kind of thing, and it feels like we're cattle. It feels like we're just cattle to them, and they're corralling us, they're geofencing us, they're doing all the things that we do to farm animals, and without necessarily respect for their privacy or anything like that. And not only that, it's all we're being controlled in that way, and I don't think it's healthy for human beings to be under this kind of control.
And it's not healthy at all. And that's the thing that we just see it with TikTok, and the way TikTok's changed now is, they're censoring anything involving Epstein. They're censoring anything that involves dissent towards the politics. So they're using these things to filter out people. And I saw something too where some lady, she was at a protest. She's a director at the Target, the shopping place. She's a director for the corporate, and because her face got scanned with one of these things, it went into some database somewhere, probably Oracle, and it's her TSA pre-check was disabled. Her ability to travel freely was impeded by this. So that now they're using these things to control the narrative, for one, and they're using it to silence voices, and then now they're using it out of retaliation for these things. And that's just where it starts. Okay, this is just the small things that we're hearing about now. What are we looking at 5 years from now? What are we looking at 3 years from now? What are we looking at a week from now? With the way things are going. So I appreciate you guys' comments on all this. I have another question for you, John. Do statements like his reflect the direction the industry is already moving, or are they trying to shape public acceptance?
Great question, and the answer is yes. It's a combination. And what I mean by that, I want to say one thing to all of your viewers. Technology always outpaces legislation. I served in the Indiana General Assembly back in the mid-1990s. And if you are old enough to remember what video cameras looked like in the 1980s, they were shoulder mount. They were like big toasters or small microwaves that people carried on their shoulders, and they took VHS tapes. And they would record about 30 minutes before you had to recharge them. In the early 1990s, video cameras went from this to this. And all of a sudden, cameras are showing up in places like women's locker room inside of a planter. And the whole point is there was no law against it. You could argue that a peeping Tom law written about somebody that's looking through a woman's window might apply, but that there's no person involved here. It's a camera that was put somewhere that it doesn't belong. But because just a couple of years earlier, you wouldn't hide a VHS shoulder mount camera inside of a planter. So there was no law on the book to go after people putting these really small cameras in places that they shouldn't be. My point is technology always outpaces legislation, because nobody passes a law to outlaw something that doesn't exist. And because of that lag, that's where we are right now. Companies like Flock, companies like Fog Data Science, they are pumping out all types of surveillance equipment. Police are using it, and they're circumventing the Fourth Amendment, but they're doing this because laws are slow to catch up. It's not illegal what they're doing. Now, I would argue that it violates the Fourth Amendment, but I'm not a judge. And it's going to take a judge saying this violates the Fourth Amendment before we start putting some brakes on it. And I just want to clarify one thing for all of your viewers. The Fourth Amendment is pretty straightforward. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, their houses, their papers, and effects shall not be violated, and that search warrants require probable cause, and the person asking for the search warrant must present probable cause to the judge and describe in particular what they're searching for. So it's not a fishing expedition. They can't just say, Chris looks suspicious. I want to go search his house and see what I can find. You have to say, here is my reason for believing this person is guilty of something. You have to say what you think they're guilty of. And then you have to say what evidence you expect to find if the judge allows you to go search. You can't just say, I'm curious what he has in his house. And he didn't invite me in, so he must be hiding something. That's the way the Fourth Amendment was written. Give the judge the evidence you have that a particular person is guilty. And if you present enough evidence that the judge says that's reasonable, the judge will give you a warrant to go look for whatever it is you claim that you think you're going to find there. What this mass surveillance is doing is completely turning that upside down. The person's walking down the street, they might be guilty of something. Okay, I'll buy that. There's a possibility. Let's talk about how many members of Congress have gone to prison over the last 30 years. We had a congressman up in Chicago a number of years ago, went to prison for pedophilia, and he was a member of Congress. But the whole point is it possible the random person walking down the street is guilty of something? Sure it is. But the Constitution doesn't say because somebody might be guilty, you can go search them. You have to give probable cause to say, I think this person committed this crime. And judge, if you let me search them, or you let me search their house, or you let me search their car, here's what I think I will find. All of that's being thrown out the window because now it's let's basically search everyone. Let's keep an eye on everyone. And if I see somebody driving 45 miles from home at 10 p.m. at night, I don't know why they're out there. That's suspicious. Most people don't drive 45 miles away from home at 10 p.m. That person's probably up to something. Let me see their life story. Let me see their internet browsing history. Let me see their bank records. Let me see everything else so I can find out if there's anything that I can charge them with. That's where we're going.
Absolutely. And here's the thing is, hey, ChatGPT, give me all the loopholes that can be utilized when eventually, they start putting the brakes on these things. And, the Fourth Amendment to my memory is it's to protect us against unreasonable searches. And that's the thing is, I find it very unreasonable to be searched when they're searching for other people. You're being processed through this data. And that's the thing is, with the way they're utilizing these things, is there's more arguments against it than can be for it. And that's really what my issue with that is that the unreasonable searches. And here's the thing, is like, even if they do these loopholes by, things like Flock, they're not a government agency. They're not of the government, right? They're a private company making contracts with, the government at local, county, state, and even federal, because there's arguments that they can put these cameras on public land, and you have the right to record public land. You have cameras in parks and things like this. These things have existed for a long time, but they're not just doing that. They're putting them on the side of the highway. They're putting them on street corners and street lights. And that's where I think they really forget all of this, is who they answer to. And that's we, the people. And I think they understand that. And that's why the recording is just being amplified now. These things are being set up everywhere. So, yeah, technology always does surpass legislation. I 100% agree with that. I could not have predicted AI coming at the time that it did. And I could not have predicted that it would rapidly accelerate to the point it's at now. And that's what's crazy about this, is it's not a human being that's just searching and analyzing us. If somebody walks up to you in a park and they hand you something, they hand you a Bible, the AI could get that wrong. Be like, hey, this person came up and handed them a mysterious object. Since it's mysterious, I don't know what it is. It could be drugs. It could be a weapon. It could be, and that's all it takes is bing. It flags you in the system. And then all of a sudden people are looking into your business. They're looking all up in your business. They want to know what time you go to church. They want to know what time you come home from work. And that's the thing is again, we don't know who has access to these things. They're a private company with these, I would call them bunk. Like, the technology behind these things are, they're already being hacked. Like, people are guessing the passwords to these things. So these low level, low effort levels of surveillance that's going out there now, it's going to drive me crazy talking about this. It's just not acceptable. Is the true thing, and
If
that
I
is the
could,
thing. Is go ahead.
if I could jump in for just 1 second, you said people guessing passwords. You don't have to guess passwords.
Mm.
A person that I know, I've never met him in person, but a person that I have communicated with, they sent me a link, and I am very, very cautious about clicking links that are sent to me. But I knew this individual well enough. I trusted them. They sent me a link. I clicked on the link, and I was watching a live feed from a flock camera in Denver, Colorado. And it was just a live stream. And I took a few screenshots of it, but I did not have to type in any passwords. There was a link that was sent to me. I clicked it, and now I'm watching cars go down the road. And so it's not even a matter of people having to hack it. I just clicked a link that somebody shared with me.
It's open
Yeah,
link cameras.
And that's
Yeah,
the
we
thing too. Is
recently did a story that looked at it was independent researchers looked at a network of 80,000 flock cameras that are in America, and a large majority of them had no passwords on them at all, just like John was saying.
Yeah.
And then the ones that did, many of them were just using the default password. It'd be like, admin and password or something, that anybody can guess.
Horrible.
A large majority of them did not have multi-factor authentication. And what was really crazy, though, is, again, the story we're told is we're going to find drug traffickers and terrorists. And so, you think they're looking at like dangerous intersections and, on the highway and things like that. But they found cameras that were looking at children's playgrounds. They had them looking at churches. They had them looking at town hall meetings. They had them looking at political rallies. And none of that, they're not looking for terrorists there, clearly. They were being weaponized for political reasons to classify and categorize people based on their beliefs or based on activism efforts that they're doing, which, and again,
with facial recognition, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and again, with tens of thousands of them that have no passwords on them and anybody can access them, there are actual websites that just categorize them and just have hundreds and hundreds of links to all these different cameras. And it's not even just the flock cameras, it's also, just IP cameras as well. And, there's surveillance cameras inside stores or shopping malls and grocery stores. Yeah, there's Ring doorbells. So there's literally like millions of cameras that are out there right now on the internet without even a password. And there are whole websites just showing people how they could just click through them and just creepily look at all these random people. And they have no idea they're being watched and who's watching them.
And that's what's scary about the scariest thing about it. And to me, that's criminal negligence, right? That already makes them the criminals, because you can just set these cameras up and say, oops, I forgot to put the password whenever you get in trouble. But, who's to say they didn't link Israel or China or Russia or some other foreign crazy place, or the actual terrorists and stuff get access to these cameras, all because they use the default password. You think like these people that can do these, it's any basic systems administrator, anybody, any programmer can tell you that, hey, we should probably secure these cameras so that bad people don't get access to them. So it's criminal negligence in my mind. What's your take on this, Nathan? Do statements like his reflect the direction the industry is already moving, or are they trying to shape public acceptance?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like we were just talking about here, I think it's one of the scariest parts here is who has access to this. And it's not just that, even if it has a password on these cameras, right? A password can be hacked. It's all just data. It's ones and zeros at the end of the day. So on any level, anybody can access these things. And if, like you were saying, sharing it with foreign countries, but also it's just, creepy people that are trying to stalk their exes and, look around at kids on a playground. Like, that's just, I don't think that's something that anybody should have access to, right? Like, it's, I think that with some of the things that John has said in some of his videos I was watching reading up to this, it's like these people are trying to play God, right? And they're trying to control everything. And it's like no person should have that power. At the end of the day, there's people that are interacting with this data and have access to it. And people are not perfect. I believe that most people are good and want to do good and be good people, but there are bad people out there. And it scares me, like what could happen, especially like if you have children or something. That's just it's a dark time.
It's terrifying.
It is absolutely dark times. That's the biggest issue with this is these are dark times for not just us, but for everybody. And you know, when people are being watched on a playground or kids, and then you know somebody starts messaging them on Facebook or something or Instagram, reaching out like telling somebody like what they did in the park, you know, creeping them out, you know, trying to mess with them and stuff. Who do you go to? You go to the cops? Wait a second, the cops are the ones that left the camera there without the passwords. And it goes to tell you, you know, it is all ones and zeros. When that data gets back to a data center, who has access to that data from the data center? You know, and that's that they don't have to watch us. That it goes from watching us to the point of now it's in the data center. Now this data is on hard drives in some random mysterious place, and it can be searched through. So somebody can sit there with a chat prompt and be like,
Right.
"Show me everybody with a red shirt. Show me everybody with a blue shirt," and
Not only
it will obey every command.
not only that, you know, I'm sorry to piggyback on that. Exactly what you're saying is that you guys say that, or I've been argued with when I say, you know, I don't like the way that things are logged. I don't like the way that they're done. But, you know, back in the day, people would tell me, well, nobody's actually looking at that. Nobody's actually watching you on there, like when you're doing it. Nobody's actually stalking you on there. Um, what is AI doing right now? AI is completely logging and categorizing every single thing that they are scraping. So, yeah, maybe not a single person is sitting there looking at you, but they can if they want to, and something else is doing that.
And then
I'm
they
not
can
okay with that.
record it and go back and look at it later too. That's the other thing.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm not okay with
And,
that.
and here's the thing: when they with these budgets that they have, like in billions of dollars, even if it's just millions or hundreds of millions, whatever it may be, hard drives aren't that expensive. They can store this data for a long time, and that's one of the biggest issues is they can store this data for so long that they can watch a child grow from being a child to being a young adult, and probably onward beyond that. And then they can see everything and every behavior change and watch this person change and grow as they grow up and stuff. And right now, that's scary to know that. It's scary to see that stuff. That somebody would have that level of knowledge and access to this knowledge, and
That's
be able to see that about
stalking.
somebody. That's
That's
the thing is
stalking.
that is stalking, and that's the thing is like who's the criminal here? Are they using so the criminals are the ones with the cameras, and they're using and this data and information can be used by anybody to stalk.
Do the kids
And
get to consent either?
no, and that's the thing is children can't
Oh,
consent, and I think
exactly.
that's the
That's a
biggest
great
topic
point
out
too.
there right
Just like John was saying, you know, like who consented and who voted for this stuff, right? I don't
I know I
remember
didn't.
have cameras installed all over my town. Like,
I
and
actually
who
would like
would
an
vote?
opt out.
It's
now.
totally
Yeah, and that's
nonpartisan. I think people from any side would be like, nobody wants this.
If I could jump back
Don't
into
jump back to. Oh, sure.
if I could jump back into that original question a moment ago about is this reflecting or is this shaping public opinion? I want to go back about 3,500 years ago. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Sun Tzu, widely regarded as one of the greatest military strategists of all time. But Sun Tzu said the best way to win a war is to convince your enemy to surrender. Because even if you outnumber the enemy 20-1, if you go to battle, you're going to take some losses. You may only lose 2 or 3%. They're going to lose everything, but you're still going to take some losses. The best way to win a war is to convince the other side to surrender. That's what I see going on right now. I've talked to so many people who say it's hopeless, it's over, they've already won, privacy is dead. I refuse to accept that because it's people like Flock, people like Ellison that are trying to convince us it's over, we've already won, deal with it. No, this is not over. In the words of John Belushi, it's not over till we say it's over. The courts have not weighed in a meaningful way. And I was having a conversation with an attorney who works for a very large, well-known privacy organization. She said that she believes the courts, as much as we would want them to be politically independent, she said she believes that the Supreme Court is kind of sitting this one out, waiting to see where public consensus goes so that they don't get too far outside of the mainstream. They have not given any big victories to the surveillance state, but they have certainly not given any big victories to our side either. They've dealt with some bits and pieces of surveillance, but they haven't addressed the big picture yet. And she said, I believe that they are sitting it out, waiting for the public consensus to form. And that's why I am working so hard on my YouTube channel. And I know that you're doing the same thing here, trying to get people to not give up, trying to get people informed so that they can be more vocal and we can start demanding accountability. There's an old expression in politics. I served for 2 terms in the Indiana House. Politicians see the light right after they feel the heat. And it's going to take a whole lot of people speaking up saying, I demand an end to this. And believe me, I do not want to be partisan here. Here is what I see as one of the biggest problems in our country. You've got two sides, roughly equivalent in numbers, but one side says surveillance is horrible when the other side's doing it. And this one says surveillance is horrible when the other side's doing it. I think it's horrible no matter who's doing it. And so I try really hard to avoid partisan issues because I want to pull left and right and center and everything else together and say, we, the people, don't want this surveillance. You know, I do have opinions. It does matter to me who's in the White House, but my point is, regardless of who that is, I don't want anybody having this power.
And I'm glad you said that, too. We're very not left or right. I think all of our political views kind of align. Is that, you know, the right's no different from the left's no different from the right. There's arguments being made with all this. There has to be some unity with this, right? What are your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, it's funny. We actually were just having this conversation earlier today, and you know, we were reading over the quote there about how we're saying we don't do any partisan issues, and you know, we were saying like, you know, exactly what you're just saying. You know, both sides take power back and forth, and the surveillance state never slows down. It still keeps going forward, regardless of who is in power. So, you know, regardless of what you believe, if you're a human, you should be against surveillance, and we should all be able to come together on this. Like, I don't care who you voted for or what you believe. We can disagree on literally everything else, but we really should agree on this. Everyone should agree on this. You know, and going back to the original question, you know, what we're seeing right now with age verification, you know, when they come out and they say, for example, we want to do digital ID and you're going to have to use this ID everything you do, everywhere you go, and everything you do online will be attached to it. People are like, no, we don't want that. So, like, all right. So they go away for a couple months. So they come back. They're like, we have to protect the kids. The kids are in danger. We need age verification to make sure the kids
are
don't
in
get
danger.
content. And people are like, that's a great idea. Yeah, let's protect the kids. They're like, that's the same thing. It's the same thing. They're doing the same exact thing that you just said you didn't want. They want your ID when you go online. They want to tie everything to you. Like, but it's just a much better branding. It's protect the kids, because who's going to say, well, I don't want to protect the kids? Everybody agrees with that. So, and that's exactly what it is. So, you know, you look at Larry Ellison's comments, and I think what he's saying there is, you know, that eventually people will just all behave because they'll be monitored all the time. I think that's eventually going to be the argument. They're saying, what, do you want people to be murdered? Do you want people to be assaulted? You know, because
ridiculous.
If you're against this, obviously you must want that, because this is the solution to that. If we can just have everybody under control all the time, crime goes away. And if you don't agree with that, you must be a criminal, because why else wouldn't you want crime to go away? So yeah, this is absolutely the very beginning stages of a diabolical marketing campaign to try to convince us all to willingly agree that we shouldn't have any more rights.
And that's the thing too, is there's good folks out there. Like, if you served in the military, I'll do anything for you. That's, you fought for our freedom. And that's the thing, is what you said there, Chris, is, you know, they can label us as anything that they want: criminal, suspicious, put some predictive algorithms on us to slap more labels on us. But the one label that they can't ever give us is free. You know, why should my freedom be under constant surveillance? Is it so that they make it so that I don't feel free? If freedom is truly mine, and it truly is, and that's the thing about freedom, is that you are free, but we're not free from the things going on, right? And I think that's the biggest issue with all of this is that whether we're criminals or possible criminals or can be criminals, there's just no argument for how this benefits freedom. So with the fight for constant freedom, and that's what we have to do, and that's what America's it's our thing. It's what we do, right? Is
It's
that
also
we
just an
believe in freedom and
unnatural
fight for it.
state. It's an unnatural state for humans to be in, right? Who wants to be watched all the time? It's
not
it's
healthy.
not like even if you are doing something wrong or you're not doing anything wrong. It's like it's not a natural human thing to be having to deal with. Like I don't want to have somebody watching me have sex with my girlfriend, or doing whatever if I'm going even grocery shopping. Like it's all unnatural, and I don't see
How would
why
that impact your mental health?
Right. It's bad for people's mental health in general too. Right. Like who wants to be watched all the time?
And that's
One
the
thing
thing,
I
though.
never hear anybody talk about too is like how that will stifle creativity and a cultural advancement. Because I've been a musician for like 30 years, and when I'm coming up with something new and when I'm inventing like a new technique or coming up with a new song, you have to take a leap. And sometimes you sound really stupid and you're like, okay, that wasn't it. Sounded like a good idea. Turns out it wasn't.
Great
But
point. Great
if
point.
you know you're being watched all the time, people are afraid to take that leap. Like, I don't want to look stupid if they're watching me. So now what?
Yeah,
There's
your
no creative
creativity goes
development.
away.
People can't try anything new. So it's, which is good timing because, AI can just make all the music for us and just keep, cranking out the same things over and over and over again because people are going to be too afraid to try anything new. People, who's going to come out with a new dance move, knowing that everybody's watching and they might look stupid
Right.
in front of the world and they're going to end up on TikTok and they're going to be a meme next week. You know what I mean? Like
That's
you're
where
afraid to try anything different.
that's where real human genius comes from, right? Like taking a risk and taking a leap and a chance and trying something new. So if people are afraid to try something new, then aren't we really just stunting our own growth as human and society by limiting ourselves?
And here's the thing: is like we need to live in a world of reality where things are real. It's going to give people two faces because they're going to act like, I'm sure maybe John, you can relate to this if you've seen this. People are going to have two faces, right? They're going to show one face to whoever, and then behind the scenes, behind the doors and stuff, they're really another way, right? And that's the thing is like you have to be cordial, you have to be ethical, all these things. But if you want to move into a new industry or you want to be a part of something new, people are going to have a hard time adjusting with these things because they had to be a certain way because they're always in the spotlight every day. And that's the thing is people can have we see these comedians out there, politicians, we see figureheads, tech leaders. They're all what can I say? Different when you actually talk to them and meet them, right? With a comedian, they're up on stage, they'll be a certain way and stuff, but when you actually sit down with these people and talk to them, they're swearing, they have opinions on things, everything that you thought they were about. How many times in life growing up from a kid that we have these people we really looked up to and thought were great people, and then you kind of see it that, hey, wait a second, they're kind of messed up, and it's one of those things. And I'm not trying to bring up an important topic with this or anything. It's just my opinion on it. Is that people are changed because they're constantly under surveillance and stuff. You don't really know this person, right? They've acted a certain way in public the entire time because they don't want to tell somebody that's bothering them, hey, go away, or they don't want to rise up or have a voice or even stand up for things because they don't want to be binging on all these different radars. When in actuality and stuff, the best I'll say this, the best and smartest people I know in this world want nothing to do with it. They are hidden from the world. They don't have any social medias. They don't have any phones. They just kind of do their thing. But then when you speak to them, they can tell you about these greatest things with encryption, with mathematics, with physical sciences. And a lot of them are I've seen so many people that I'm like, wow, if the world really knew what you knew, man, and what you can do, and the things that you can do takes nothing from you, effort from your part, but they don't want to show themselves in the world. And I think that's a lot of why we call this hide and speak, is there are these people out there. We do have these technology and these outlets and these things to connect to each other privately and securely. Exactly. We have these things, but not everybody knows about them. And then the ones that do know about them live a lonely life because not everybody else knows about them. They can't connect. They're isolated from the world. And the arguments that I've heard for these things, why don't you show the true you? Why don't you come out and come on board with this and let's do this? And you're like,
Because look
nah,
what happens.
I don't want the world to see me, right?
And you know,
yeah,
I truly
exactly.
believe we are the majority. I think, you know, if more people were talking about this, it would be, you know, much more mainstream. The problem is that people are afraid to talk about it, right? So
they withdraw.
What's important and why I love this stream is that, you know, we talk about these things, right? And we let other people know that you're not alone. You're not the only one that thinks this way. And pretty much everybody that I talk to in my real life, even just at the grocery store or at wherever, agrees with all of these things that we're bringing up.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something that Chris said just a couple of minutes ago about age verification. You know, nobody wanted digital IDs, so they paused for a month or two, then come back with, we need to protect children. I refuse to be lectured about protecting children by anybody in government until a certain client list gets released and people are behind bars. Until that happens, don't talk to me about protecting children.
Please.
And I was gonna bring that up too. It's you know, they're these are the ones that tell us they're going to be protecting children. Then you look on the other side of the fence at like who's signing these bills and stuff, and who's involved with what, and who's sponsoring what, and lobbying for what, and who's getting paid. And it's like, wait a second, you want to protect children, or do you want to protect us from stopping you from getting to those children, or finding like your next targets? And I think that's an argument that can be made, but I think that the level of power that's out there right now just doesn't want to have that argument with us. They just want to just do these things. There's very little we can do, but we can do things, and there's very little that we can say about it to change the mindset of others. Like when I talk to people about technology, they look at me like this. They don't know what I'm talking. Like they just don't understand it. And that's not a bad thing. It's not wrong. It's just, you know, if somebody becomes a carpenter or a painter in life, you know, they don't know computers, and, you know, it's not going to be their thing to have that knowledge. But here's the thing that people should understand is you are being watched. These things are going into databases. You did not consent to these things. You didn't even know they were here probably until it was brought up to you. And it's all you need to know about this stuff is that you should always be you. Never change, whether you're being watched or not, and be authentic. And I think that's what we're doing here on this stream is we are authentic with this. I don't want to hear that argument either, that it protects children. I don't want to hear any argument from any of them whatsoever, because I know what's going on behind the scenes with these things. There's data brokers, right?
Yeah. If I can interject, I do want to protect children from that. That's what I want to protect children from. What, you know, why is it that I can't do that? It's not okay with me.
I think protecting children is having good community policing, where you have like a good rapport with the you know, you're the people who hold up the pillars of society, the real heroes, right? But ultimately it comes down to parenting, right? It's you can't stop your children from using social media because you can't upload an ID and stuff. They're just going to find other means.
There's 6-year-olds going to school with iPhones.
Yeah,
my kids were 10 years old begging me for phones because the 6-year-olds in their school had iPhones and they didn't. You know, it's not fair. Well, it's not fair to me that I wanted to protect my kids and they weren't, because they didn't know any better.
And the thing is to get your ID,
right? That's the lack of accountability that they're all trying to enable. Like, oh, you don't have to take care of your kids if you're a parent. Just let the government take care of it.
Put an iPad in front of them.
Everybody wants to be lazy. And it's like, well, shouldn't we be enforcing the accountability on parents? And shouldn't you be a good parent? Like, at the end of the day, a lot of these things come down to the parent that should be protecting their child.
I think a lot of them just didn't realize. What did she say?
Yeah. A lot of them didn't realize. That's the thing is, but here's, you know, there's the way things are versus how they should be are two different things. But that's a simple way of saying it. The way things actually are is very complicated. The way things should be is a fix for those complicated things. And you know, there's a generation of children that had an iPad stuck in front of their face, you know, and that's what raised them, so that the parents can have quiet time, that type of stuff. And that's the thing is, there's a lot of terrible parents out there. There's a lot of bad people out there, and it's not just bad. There's a lot of stupid people. I'm just going to say that there's a lot of stupid people that don't think in their minds, hey, I should probably protect my children from the bullshit that's happening online. Excuse my language. You know, and it does come down to parenting, right? And having a good relationship with the people who protect your communities. that's the thing is like when I was living in the rural areas, we had a good relationship with the police. But it was also at the same time too, like we didn't involve the police, but at the same time too, everybody around you has a gun. And so if any, mischief happens to your children, it's one of those things that, I would rather not see this, but we have to protect each other is the thing. We can't rely on these systems to stop somebody from accessing where all the bad stuff is. The bad stuff is you walk down the street and there's probably a lot of bad stuff that's happened there in the past, or there's probably potential for it. And there's probably some not so good people walking around too, right? So that's the thing is with these arguments, there just isn't any. And the only reason these IDs are needed is, and here's the truth, and it's this simple, so that they can link you to other things. And these other things are the things that are being created and I guess pushed to us for us to accept. But the thing is it's not even being pushed to us to accept. It's just being pushed out there until, we raise alarms and start screaming about it. So this is, I'll turn this over to you here, John. But go ahead and bring up the topic for state of surveillance, flock safety, and ALPRs. This will be our next topic that we speak about. I'm going to turn this over to you, John. I know you have some more to share with us.
And I want to thank. I realized as soon as I quit talking how my comment could be taken out of context, not by anybody here, but I absolutely care about children. But it's the hypocrites that are giving a free pass to terrible people while telling us you have to give up your identity, you have to give up your privacy in the name of protecting children. But we're going to let these other people off the hook. What I want to share with you right now. Most people know Flock as the license plate company, Flock automated license plate readers. But I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, now we're really checking our technical abilities here.
Share screen, and
I think we just had to add the screen to the stage, Chris. I don't think we've tested this. We tested out our own layouts and things like this.
Chris will figure it out. He's pretty smart.
Here, let me ask. There we go.
There we go.
Wrong one. Give me 1 second here. I gotta bring my
The focus screen, yeah.
Oh,
no
okay.
worries. Take your time. We're all here to have fun and enjoy this. I enjoy technology. I love technology. I love tinkering with it. I love playing with it. I love trying to get it just right. And that's kind of where, it's so great to have this screen to tinker
Yeah,
with
this
things.
patent that he posted. Yeah, this is interesting.
Okay. When I'm looking at this on my screen, it's backwards. Does it look normal to you?
It's straight. It's good.
That looks good for us. Yep.
It looks normal.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Mm-hmm.
This is the patent that Flock has. Notice the date of the patent is August 16th, 2022. So 3.5 years ago. And let's look at what this patent is called. I have from day one referred to flock safety as flock surveillance because who is opposed to safety? Everyone wants safety. And I've seen this in headlines about the safety cameras going up. No. Get rid of the marketing people. These are not safety cameras. These are surveillance cameras.
Well, we call it
But this is the name of the patent. System and method for object-based query of video content captured by a dynamic surveillance network. This is Flock's surveillance patent, not a safety patent, a surveillance patent. And I just want to bring you down here to the abstract. This is a lengthy patent, many pages. A solution for video surveillance and a method that leverages dynamic geographic footprint and supports an object-based query of archived content. Now, let me translate this for people that are not engineers. If I can define a geographic area, maybe it's a city block, maybe it's 10 city blocks. But if I can define a geographic area, I can do what's called an object-based search, because let's just keep it simple. We're going to say one city block. In one city block, there may be a flock camera at either end of the block And there may be 12 houses that have Ring doorbells because Ring is now sharing data with Flock. What this does, if I follow a car and I can follow this car coast to coast with license plate readers, but I follow this car to a neighborhood and it passes one Flock camera, but it does not pass the next Flock camera within the next 2 minutes. What's the logical, but what would AI assume if it starts down a street, passes one Flock camera, but it doesn't get to the next Flock camera? Logical assumption.
They stop somewhere. Right.
So now I know that a car came to a stop between this intersection and that intersection. And now a Ring doorbell picks somebody up on the sidewalk in the middle of the street, or excuse me, in the middle of the block. So this person did not pass through the intersection on foot. This person just appeared in the middle of the block on a Ring doorbell. What's the logical assumption? That person just got out of a car. And now when that person is walking down the street, if they come up the driveway or something, now we can do facial recognition. I can now put that face with those clothes in that car at this time, at this location. And then an hour later, somebody else wearing the same thing, a blue ball cap, a green shirt, a pair of blue jeans, and a pair of work boots, a person of the same height, of the same general build, wearing the same clothes, is seen 3 blocks away. I don't need to know that person's name, but I can now follow this person. And that's what this patent is all about. It's about doing a query of objects, and those objects are basically hats, shoes, sweaters, things like that. The video footage is parsed for content and stored in a database. And so all I need is one picture of one person on a given day in a given geographic area. And then I can do a search for, show me anyone wearing a flannel shirt with a blue hat. And boom, I can track this person across the city with all of the Ring doorbell cameras. This is exactly what Larry Ellison's talking about. And it was September 2024 when Larry Ellison made his comment about we're going to be recorded 24/7 with doorbell cameras, dash cameras, body cameras. Flock has already announced their partnership with Amazon Ring. Flock is currently looking for a dash cam company to partner with. And while I'm sharing this screen, let me show you one other one. Ubiquity. I can't even pronounce this company. Ubiquia. Press release. Flock Safety and Ubiquia help police with license plate recognition. And when you scroll down, this is a company that makes smart street lights. And if you go through and read all the press releases, they're talking about we're going to start putting Flock cameras. We're going to integrate them into street lights. There's another company, a company called Leonardo. And let me just pull this up real quick.
John's got all the receipts.
I do my best. It's the academic in me. When I write academic papers, I have to cite all my sources, and I carry that over to what I do on YouTube. I always put my receipts in.
Well, and how long until this technology is in everybody's phones and just anybody who has a phone out with a camera on it is implemented into this system as well, without their consent or knowledge of it as well?
Yeah, I would be surprised if Tesla
has their phone out and bam.
I would be amazed if Tesla's not working out a deal. You know, their cars have like 90 cameras on the outside of them and have GPS.
Oh, okay. I'm not pulling up the page that I was looking for, but right now, Flock cameras do what's called vehicle fingerprinting, and they talk about this on their own website. When a car goes by, they are not just getting the let me switch my camera back. When a car goes by, Flock does not just capture the license plate number. They get what they call a vehicle fingerprint. And what the vehicle fingerprint does, it's the make, the model, the color, any dents, any scratches, any bumper stickers. That ought to terrify people. If I can do a search for bumper stickers historically, Flock by default holds data for 30 days, but any police jurisdiction that is using Flock, they can pay extra and Flock will hold that data for years for them. They just charge them a storage fee. But imagine somebody gets elected from either side. And again, I'm not trying to be partisan here at all. Some people are going to be concerned that the next president might be going after gun owners. Somebody else might be concerned they're going against pro-life or against pro-choice or against pro-Israel or pro-Hamas. I don't care what your issue is. Do you want a database of every bumper sticker that you have had on your car being kept? So when somebody new comes to office, they could say, I want a list of everyone that has shown support for fill in the blank. Boom, here's that list. That ought to cause everyone a lot of concern. But that's what Flock does. Make, model, color, dents, bike racks, roof racks. That is your vehicle fingerprint. But Flock has competitors. And Leonardo, they make a license plate reader with enhanced capabilities. They have a sensor package that mounts on the same pole as the license plate reader. They advertise this on their website. When your car goes by, they not only get your license plate number, each one of your tires has a Bluetooth tire pressure monitoring system. This is required by law. But you have 4 Bluetooth transmitters, one in each of your tires, and it is constantly transmitting data about tire pressure. This package, this sensor package that works with the license plate reader, it picks up your Bluetooth pressure monitoring system. And I can hear people already saying, big deal. Why would I care about that? Well, wait, there's more. If you have your dog with you and your dog has been chipped, they can pick that up. If you're wearing a smartwatch, they can pick that up. Your cell phone, they pick that up. Anything that has Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, including medical devices, if you happen to have a pacemaker, they can pick up all of these electronic signals, and then they assign those signals to your license plate. So now, based on your pacemaker or based on your smartwatch, they know that this watch is associated with this car. And there's another database. Here's the license plate. Here's the electronic signals associated with that license plate. Okay, what's the big deal? Well, now Susan gives me a ride home after work one day, and she passes one of these things. Hey, what's John's watch doing in Susan's car? That's a good data point. Might want to make a note of that. But what these things are doing is they're allowing mapping of social networks. Now, Facebook has been doing this for a decade or more, mapping social networks. But now when I can start saying this person's phone was in this person's car at this time, now you're getting a whole nother level of intrusiveness. I not only know where you drove, but I know who the passengers were in your car based on their phones.
And then some.
And here's I mentioned last stream as well. All you need is Kali Linux, right? Kali. Install this on there's Aircrack NG. You can use these tools, and it's for pen testing, right? You want to test the security of your own systems, and so these things are needed. All you have to do is type in one command and go sit outside on your porch, and you can see Ashley's car drives by. I don't know who Ashley is, but I know her car drove by. And you can pull so much information with just a laptop and a little Wi-Fi dongle that costs $20 from Amazon to get an extended range for these signals. And they are looking at these things. For our devices to be broadcasting all the signals that they're not, it would be insane of us to think that somebody's not somewhere collecting these things. So it's one of those things that we can do it too, but now they're making it a main thing and at scale, right? So we can do these things, but they already figured out that they could do those things a long time ago. And you mentioned the mapping of the social networks, right? Yeah, they want to know not just you, they want to know who you're around, what you're talking about. Somebody else's dog was in that car too, so maybe they're both taking their dogs on to a dog park or something like this. Right. And then there's the predictive analysis for this. Will these people have the potential to start a riot? Will these people have the potential to go to a protest? Will these people have the potential to stop buying things at this certain store if this happens? These are questions that they do ask the AIs, right? And that patent that you showed me, they could search for these things. Well, when they search for these things, you can ask ChatGPT, right? What color shirt should I wear tomorrow? Well, they can ask these things. What's the potential for this? What's the potential for that? Or if they identify these people, like let's think, they're surveilling us, but let's think about who people are. What if you're a CEO of a company? What if you're a CMO of a company? What if you're a COO of a company? What if you're a president of a company? What if you're the director of a company somewhere? Now they want to know your habits and the people who you work with's habits so that they can use this data for whatever they want. Well, if everybody congregated in one spot and they're all from one company, for example, they just had a company meeting. You can get as much information out of this as you can, and then you can use these things to what is they call that interpolation. You can gather this data and interpolate what the next move is going to be or what can happen next. And the more these things are right, the more they train on more data, so that the more things they get right. So they are mapping these things. They're mapping every aspect of us.
And what if they're a competitor?
And yeah,
right,
and that's
exactly.
well, here's
what
the
if
thing
they're trying
too.
to buy that said company and use this information against them?
Like
right?
Google
Exactly.
kind of does. Have you seen the Google? Not to be too crazy about that kind of stuff, but go check out the Google kill list. It's big.
Yep, buy their companies, take their patents, take their all the intellectual property, then shut the company down. That way, you don't have any competition. And they're Google's probably the biggest data giant there is right now. They have massive data center infrastructure out there, and they have the TPUs, which is the way the AI is calculated. It's not just graphics cards like NVIDIA. So it would take a lot of it would take a lot of resources, a lot of power, and a lot of engineering, a lot of getting the rights to build these data centers just to catch up to something like Google, right? Well, that's the thing is like it would take a lot. It would take a lot too to catch up to something like Oracle, which has been doing this for decades now. And Oracle, they've mainly been based on what is that software that they use in the hospitals? I forget the name of it. Epic, I think. So all these things tie into into Oracle itself. Well, go check the news real quick. It just came out that Oracle's firing something like 300,000 people, so that they can focus on this $100 billion deal with OpenAI. So we're right at the very entrance to the behemoth of what the surveillance stuff is going to be about. And to my knowledge, and I could be wrong on this because I try to stay away from that type of news, is I think Oracle has a lot to do with TikTok now, right? They have all these servers where all the data is stored on Oracle servers. So all these things are feeding to the same place. I know we're talking about Block right now.
Both by Ellison, right?
Yeah, and by Ellison. And that's the thing is these people share contracts. They're not even share contracts. These people go hang out with other billionaires. They go hang out with other CEOs. And they go, well, I'll do this for you if you do that for me. I'll give you this if you give me this information. Now all of a sudden you have stuff that's off the record. Nobody can convince me that this stuff doesn't happen, right? It does. Especially if you're working with a CEO in Europe or something like that. You have no legal obligation to announce the things that you're doing, especially when it works with things like national security, which is what this block surveillance is about. So you have to keep it hush hush, right? But is it really hush hush when it's just blatantly happening right in front of our faces?
And as far as what will these companies be willing to break the law and abuse this technology? Years ago, Meta, Facebook, whatever, bought a VPN company and used that to spy on competitors and companies that were starting competing apps, and then quickly bought other small apps and brought them to market before they had a chance to. So, and basically ended those companies. So yeah, they literally bought a VPN to use it as surveillance in order to spy on competing companies and then steal their business from them because they weren't willing to sell. So yeah, absolutely, these people will use it any way they possibly can.
Absolutely. And here's the thing is it do be like that. And we wish it wasn't. We wish this wouldn't be right on our doorstep right here. And for us to walk the path forward in life and for us to see exactly what's going on, to have our eyes opened to the eyes that are attached to these poles around the country. And it's the thing is this is already happening in the United Kingdom. This is already happening in Europe. It's just normal for them to have CCTV. It's already happening in China. They have social scores for people. And that's kind of when we get back from our break there, John. I want to talk to you about that Black Mirror episode that you had, and because it really resonated with me. It's one of those things that the thing is they're using this data and they're giving it to people that we don't know who they are, and they're using these things to mathematically put a score to our human behaviors. And if you just don't match up to these scores, whether these scores are hidden or not, it determines what kind of life you're going to lead and stuff, because you can't get insurance because of your health. And how would they know about your health? You can't get car insurance for this because somebody backed into your car into a Walmart, so now they know you're accident prone. Things like this. And these are just some examples, right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to head to a break, guys. We're going to get some water. We'll catch back up with everybody. Stay tuned. We got John here. And I think we have a lot to discuss, and you have a lot of knowledge, experience, and we are happy that you're here. We'll see you all in a couple minutes.
T-minus 3 minutes. T-minus 2 minutes.
Yeah. Every click, every move, yeah, they're watching the feed, showing ads for the things that you don't really need. They want all the data, they want your ID, but I've got some news that just won't work for me. So I encrypt the connection and cover my tracks. We get to the truth and we stick to the facts. We build a safe place where the speech is always free, where cypherpunks go to just hide and speak. Hide and speak, we stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak, digital freedom, yeah, that is our choice. Hide and speak, privacy doesn't mean not having a voice. Hide and speak, what you wanna share is only
T-minus 1 minute.
Look, the world is exposed, yeah, the walls are thin. Everybody posting every place that they've been. Trading privacy for likes, that's a heavy cost. In the ocean of data, the person gets lost. So we flip the switch, yeah, we go underground. Moving through the silence without making a sound. Not hiding because you are doing something wrong. Just defending your rights before they are gone. The room is secure, so let the session start. Speak from the brain or speak from the heart. Tell us your story, we unlock the doors. We invite the guests,
T-minus
yeah, the
30
floor is
seconds.
yours. You can keep the mask on, keep it low key. Privacy is priceless, but opinions are free. We amplify the voices that they try to call weak. Welcome to the stream, time to hide and speak. Hide and speak, we stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak, digital freedom, yeah, it's our choice.
10, 9,
Hide and speak, privacy doesn't mean not
7,
having a voice.
6, 5,
Hide and
4,
speak, what you
3,
wanna share is
2,
only your choice.
1.
Hide and speak.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Hide and Speak. We're here with Dr. Jon Padfield. We're discussing the state of surveillance in 2026. Most notably right now, Flock safety with ALPRs. Just to fill you in on that, Flock is one of the fastest growing surveillance networks in the United States right now with their quote unquote automatic plate readers in more than 5,000 communities across 50 states. Now, here's the thing: is like we live in a universe that I've seen arguments for that it's energy, and I've seen arguments for that it's information. I find myself often in life having to protect my energy, mostly from others. And then now in this digital realm, I have to find myself protecting my information as well. So that's the thing, is whatever universe we live in, the people that are doing surveillance obviously don't live in ours. And because we do not agree with these things, we do actually have issues with this. And there is, we can sit here and talk for days on this, but John, that's where you come in with this. We just discussed basically, the patents behind it. You offer so much knowledge and wisdom on this. So thank you so much for being here. I have a question for you. And, I kind of mentioned this, the social scores, but you don't have to talk about that if you don't want to. What are the long-term implications of private companies controlling massive networks of this information?
Great question. And I don't mind at all talking about social scores. We actually have them already. It's just that most of them are not publicly seen. We all know that we have a credit score. If you want to go borrow money, the bank or the lender is going to look at what is your credit history? How much money do you make? How much money are you currently spending on fixed payments like a mortgage or a car payment? How much money do you owe on revolving debt like credit cards? There are proprietary algorithms from the big three, Experian, TransUnion, and drawing a blank on the third one right now. But there's three big credit scoring companies. Equifax, thank you. I remember that it began with an E, but I could not think what the third one was. But they have proprietary algorithms. They're going to give you a credit score, and that credit score is going to be used for determining what interest rate are you going to get, what's the maximum amount you can borrow, and whether you get the loan or not. That's the one that we all are familiar with because you can actually see your score. The scores that you can't see, insurance companies have scores for you, but they're not going to share that with you. And those scores are being driven by your driving habits. General Motors is being sued by the state of Texas right now. Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a lawsuit about a year ago against General Motors, claiming that GM was collecting data on about 15 million Texans and that GM was selling this information to insurance companies. And GM never denied collecting information or selling it. GM just said, but they consented to it. And let's talk about consent for just a minute, because that word has lost its meaning. I am a professor. I am required to go through IRB training. It's either every year or every other year. It seems like every year. But here's what IRB is. If you go back to the 1970s, late 1960s, early 1970s, you had the Milgram experiments going on. You had the Stanford prison experiment going on. There were people being psychologically messed up because of the trauma that they underwent in the name of science. The Stanford prison experiment is probably the best known, where college students were recruited. Some were assigned to be guards, some were assigned to be inmates, but the guards became very abusive, physically abusive of the inmates. And these are students turning on each other. But the whole point is, some of those students needed counseling when this experiment was over, and it only lasted a week. Congress intervened and they said no more experiments on human subjects unless you go through the institutional review board that they just created. And here's what's required. And when we say doing research on human subjects, I'm not talking about dissecting people. Research on human subjects means doing a survey. So if I wanted to do a survey for academic publication, I have to fill out a whole bunch of forms, give to my university's institutional review board, and they will review my methodology, and they have to give me a thumbs up and say you're approved before I go out and do my research. Failure to do so jeopardizes all federal funding to my university. They take this very, very serious. If I, as a professor, went out to do academic research and I bypassed the institutional review board, I would most likely be fired. So this is a very serious issue. But Congress defined what is informed consent, because participants have to give their informed consent. And informed consent has 8 elements to it. This is in federal law. And I can't remember all 8 off the top of my head, but I have to tell them this is voluntary. I have to tell them that you're not going to be subject to any penalty if you decide midway through the experiment that you don't want to continue. But I have to tell them how I'm going to treat their data. Just because they filled out the survey and I collected their data, I can't just do anything I want with that data. The informed consent, I have to tell them up front, here's what I'm going to do with this data. Here's the analysis I'm going to do on it. Here's where it's going to be published. I will not do anything else with this data. And once I have explained all of this to a participant and they say, I'm okay with that, now I can do my research. That is what informed consent looks like. Now let's compare that to a privacy policy that you're going to find at Meta or Google or somewhere else. We respect your privacy goal. We may share your data with our business partners. Okay, let's break that one down. Nobody sells your data anymore. That's an outdated concept. Because selling data, most people are opposed to selling data. We do not sell your data. But we may share your data with our business partners. And who are your business partners? People that give us money. That sounds a lot like you're selling my data. Oh no, this is completely different. We're just sharing it with people that give us money. So anyway, my point is, when you read these privacy policies, number one, if you're not a lawyer, you probably have no idea what it means, even if you read the privacy policy. And these companies are claiming they have consent, but their version of consent looks nothing like what real consent looks like. I've jokingly said this before in a video that their version of consent is kind of like Bill Cosby's version of consent. It's not real consent. So
good point.
That's what we have to be really careful of with these companies that are collecting our data. What is the long-term risk? Well, you're going to have companies that know you better than your best friend knows you, better than your spouse knows you, probably better than you know yourself, because they don't just know you, they know everybody. Gemini, Google's AI, just launched a brand new feature. This has been within the last day or two. That AI will train off of you, not your interactions with it. I mean, most AIs train off of your interactions with them. But with Google Gemini, if you have one of the paid tiers for Google Gemini, you can give it access to your hard drive. It will go through every email that you have ever sent or received. It will go through your text messages. It will go through your photos. It will establish a baseline for you. The last 4 times that you took pictures where you were at a beach for 4 days in a row, you were probably on vacation. But it knows you have a fondness for Florida because you don't go to Texas beaches, you don't go to Georgia beaches, you always go to Florida when you go to the beach. But it knows what type of food do you like, because it can go through and analyze, here's the receipts that you're getting from places that you shop. But it's going through your hard drive. It knows you. And that's Google that's offering this service. They may say that this is going to be kept private. This will never be shared with anyone else. But let's look at that for just a second. Let's assume there is a company out there that is very privacy oriented. This is a company with a really good reputation for protecting people's personal data. If I give that company access to my hard drive so that it can search every photo, every email, every text, every personal note that I've written, and that company now has all of this information about me, what happens if that company gets bought by a bigger company? There goes my data. And it really doesn't matter how good a privacy protection that company had. As soon as they're bought, my data is now under the control of a bigger company. And so people really need to think carefully before they give access to any company to go in and look at their data like this. What I foresee in the very near future is these companies are going to know us as well or better than we know ourselves. And then once they do that, I've used the term before, strip mining people. I'm old enough to remember when companies had personnel departments. My first job out of college, I went to work for General Motors in 1988, and I clearly remember in 1988, there was a personnel department. Around 1990, 1991, that sign came down and the sign went up that this is now the Human Resources Department. What do you do with resources? You exploit them. You know, if there's coal in the ground, you don't leave it in the ground, you exploit that resource. We're now human resources, and there's a lot of meaning to that term. We are resources. We're no longer people. People were governed by the personnel department. Resources are managed by the human resources department.
And that's what's scary about it is, I've worked with a lot of our projects and companies in the past, and we've had HR, and that's the thing is you kind of learn with HR is they're there to protect the company, right? They're there to utilize the people as resources and whichever way the company sees fit. And that's the thing is I kind of oversee the human resources aspect of our company here, but it's nothing like that. I don't even call it human resources specifically for that reason, because people are people. You're not some data point and some algorithm. You're not something that needs to be exploited. It's we have a fun time with our projects now because we all just kind of vibe from each other and work together the best way that we can. But when you brought up what happens when that company gets bought by a bigger company, and there goes your data, and what's their HR going to do with it? And it raises a lot of questions and concerns with the way people are seen. Businesses don't care about you. Like, they're about to lay off 300,000 people from Oracle, and I'm not saying not all businesses don't care about you. Obviously, some do. But these big companies like this, especially big tech right now, is 300,000 people that this was based on the medical sector. Before, for Oracle, that was their main source of, that's where they got the contracts and the business from. Well, they no longer see that as viable. Now it's AI. They want everybody's data and information, right? So they're switching to new models. They're switching to new resources, so to say. So I have a question for you. What kind of oversight should exist? The original question is what oversight should exist when police rely on privately owned surveillance infrastructure? But realistically, I want to change this question up for you. Hope you don't mind. What oversight should exist for all of this? Police included.
Great question. I am a big believer that warrants should be required for this. The police are operating in what I would call a gray area right now because the Supreme Court has never come out and said it's legal to do what you're doing, but neither have they come out and said it's illegal to do what you're doing. We can look at things like the Carpenter case, which was decided in 2018. And the Supreme Court, a very divided Supreme Court, it was a 5-4 decision. The Supreme Court said, and I'm quoting now, the use of advanced technology for a prolonged period of time constitutes a search under the Fourth Amendment. Okay, they intentionally used some vague language. They did not say the use of cell phone data. They did not say the use of license plate readers. They said the use of advanced technology, which to me, being a former legislator, they intentionally chose a broad term, just like our founding fathers didn't say people have a right to keep and bear muzzle loaders. They didn't say you had a right to keep and bear revolvers. They used a broad term, the right to keep and bear arms. So the Supreme Court's following in that precedent of let's use broad language so that it covers as much as possible. The use of advanced technology for a prolonged period of time. So they're leaving an exception in there. If you want to do a snapshot, like a car's been stolen, this license plate number was reported stolen 30 minutes ago. Let's go check the flock cameras to see if that car has been seen anywhere. Yes, it's headed south on I-65. Supreme Court doesn't seem to have a problem with that. But it's the prolonged use for a prolonged period of time. If my car has been stolen, what relevance is it where I was driving 22 days ago? That's irrelevant. My car was stolen this afternoon. Look at where my car has been since I reported it stolen. But the Supreme Court has used this term. The use of advanced technology for a prolonged period of time constitutes a search under the Fourth Amendment and requires a warrant. So I would still argue that what police are doing today should require a warrant. Flock Safety, well, Flock was not a party to the lawsuit. The Institute for Justice filed a lawsuit against the city of Norfolk. Norfolk put up 172 Flock cameras, and a resident of Norfolk named Schmidt, he contacted Institute for Justice. They filed the lawsuit saying that this is an illegal search, and the judge just dismissed that case about a week ago. Institute for Justice has already filed an appeal, and I'm hoping that that gets overturned on appeal. But again, we need the Supreme Court to weigh in on this in a meaningful way. Now, you brought up another piece, and this one irritates the taillights out of me. What happens when the AI is wrong? And we can go to real life instances. This is not a theoretical. A police officer pulled over two women. I can't remember their exact ages. I think one was mid-20s and one was late teens. But a police officer pulled over two women because AI said they're driving a stolen car. No, they're not. The camera misread the license plate. The officer pulls over the car because it was flagged as that's a stolen car, pulls them over, orders them out of the car at gunpoint. These are two women that have done nothing wrong, but they get pulled over, guns drawn. They are forced to lay face down on the pavement, and all because AI misread their license plate. Okay, who's at fault? Who should be responsible for innocent people being terrorized? And I'm really glad that that woman didn't do something dumb like reach in her purse, or she might not be with us today. But who ultimately is responsible for two innocent women being put face down on the hot pavement? Well, certainly not the license plate reader company, because it's in their contract. We're not responsible for errors. Bull. You can put that in there, but who are we going to hold responsible? And
that's the thing is,
if companies are going to make billions of dollars,
exactly.
And Flock, a few months ago, Flock was estimated to be worth about $7.5 billion. That was a Forbes number. But a $7.5 billion company, I think you ought to be carrying some liability on this. If your technology is telling police pull that car over because it's stolen, and police pull that car over thinking that it's stolen, thank goodness nobody got shot. But somebody needs to be held responsible for this. And I've never seen a way to put AI in jail. I've never seen a way to force AI to pay a fine. So there has to be some consequences for these companies, because they quite literally can ruin lives. And let me just give you one more example on this. I always put my email address in all of my videos, businessreform@proton.me. I had a person contact me who is a paramedic, and this was his big concern. He said, this isn't just on my mind every day. This is on the minds of everyone that I work with. When a 911 call comes in, we go where we are dispatched. That's part of the job. He said, I am in a crack house at least once a week, because what happens in crack houses? People get shot, people get stabbed, people overdose. As a paramedic, he goes out to respond. He said one thing every crack house has in common: lots of cameras, because the people inside want to see what's going on outside. If a bunch of police officers are lining up out on the sidewalk, they want to see that. And he said, I'm terrified going into a crack house now, knowing that Flock is documenting my face with facial recognition and making note of the fact that I was at a crack house, because he said, I'm at them all the time. And he said, my biggest fear is I'm going to get pulled over for speeding or a taillight out or something. And when the officer pulls me over and runs my plate, he's going to see that I'm a known associate of 12 different drug dealers, and he's going to think that I'm El Chapo. We have enough incidents already of poorly trained officers overreacting, and he doesn't want somebody shooting him because they're convinced he's a dangerous drug dealer, and they come up gun drawn when they're pulling him over for speeding. So these are some very real situations. We've already seen people falsely being pulled over for driving a stolen car because the license plate misread it. What's going to happen when somebody gets shot because AI said this person was dangerous when the AI was wrong? we need to be deciding right now who is held responsible, because the police are saying we were just acting off of the information we were given, and the people giving them that information saying, hey, we put it in the contract, we're not responsible. Somebody needs to be held responsible.
And that's the thing too, is who, to answer that question from me, and this is my opinion, comes back to who's benefiting and who's not. And the ones that are benefiting from it should be held responsible. They're the ones making all the money, and the money is the one that's going to pay for those hospital bills. It's going to, I'm sorry, but you can really mess somebody up by ripping them out of their vehicle and throwing them down on the ground with a gun held to their head. That's whether you go to jail or not, that's going to mess you up for life. That's not something you go to a bar and joke about. That's some real stuff that happened, and you could have just lost your life. And that's the thing, is you could have lost your life, but that could have been a loved one too. It could have been your grandma, for God's sake. And that brings up a lot. I never even really thought about that way. The actual heroes in this world, like the EMS, fire department, things like this, they have to go to these really dangerous, crazy situations. And there's no argument, they are the heroes, right? And but then they're classified as being around the wrong people, because they were the good people doing a good thing, because everybody deserves to have their life saved, right? I mean, everybody's equal to some degree, but it's really not like that. We're not all equal. It's just how it is. I think that's why we have this issue with who's benefiting and who's not, because it's none of us. And it's those people wearing suits that are investing in this stuff and trading contracts with each other with local departments and things like this. And that's the thing too, is it is on the police that are accountable for this, because all they had to do was verify themselves. I mean, you have to treat everybody with integrity and respect. And that is sadly the situation. Is you see a stolen car, and this stolen car, you look at who it is, and they have like gun charges, violence charges, sexual assault and stuff like this. So now you think that this person's involved with that. And so it's one of those things that you can really do a lot of damage to good people. And I really truly think that is one of the wickedness, one of the big parts of wickedness in this world, is that bad things happen to good people. I used to ask that question, why do bad things happen to good people? I don't ask that question anymore. But here's the thing, if you want to do something against this wickedness, you have to stop scenarios that are like this. Those false positives, those scar entire communities. They scar the relationship between you and the community policing officers. I get it. These people put up with some bad stuff all day. Like, nobody wants to go to a crack house. Nobody wants to go have to stop a bank robbery too. But in reality, bank robberies aren't happening every day. These people are dispatched out to bad situations where they kind of deal with bad people all the time. You're not going to call police out because you're having a barbecue and everything's good. No, you're gonna call the police out because little Ralph got stabbed. Something like this. So these are great questions. I'm glad you answered these things. The way I see it is, what can we do? What kind of oversight should we have? Here's the thing: is we are the oversight right now. We everybody watching, everybody in this world, we're the oversight. Like, we're watching this happen. It's literally by definition the oversight of what's happening. And there is ways to combat these things. We have a gentleman from Bend, Oregon, who was just able to get the flock cameras out of their community. But it takes so much time and energy that the most common folk that go to work, have their families, live their lives, you can't dedicate your time to things like this, especially when you're going against billionaires and crooks like that benefit from this. And that's just the craziest thing to me, is that there's people benefiting from people suffering. That's wickedness. That is, and for evil to prevail like this, good people have to do nothing. Well, that's the thing, is they've kind of funneled us into a position to where there's not only so much we can do. You have to collect 1,000 signatures. You got to take this to your town hall meetings. You got to talk with your representatives, and then you have to convince them, and then you have to get them to care. And who's to say that these people aren't on the payroll anyways with these private companies? You wouldn't know. There's consultation fees that you can sign up for these people. You could pay somebody come have a talk at your business and give them $100,000, but on the down low say, hey, make sure these cameras stay there. And I'm not saying this stuff actually happens. I don't have proof of this stuff, but it's realistic. And then the other realistic aspect is good people are being ripped out of the cars. The heroes are going to these houses and being classified with the wrong people. And that's the thing, is those social scores, they do exist. Credit, insurance, these are just simple examples, the ones that we know about. but how about your behaviors on online media or online social media? How about your behaviors from the way you write emails? How about the difference in between how you text message? Do you type with capital letters? Do you type in slang? But then when do you adjust it to where you type professionally and things like this? So it's they're getting all these behaviors that are behind the data points and stuff in which most people discuss, right? Driving by is one thing, but having, every Bluetooth signal being scanned, that's another. Two different things. What's your take
I
on
am
that?
so glad. I'm so glad you brought up that point about the difference of if you normally text just capitalizing the first word of the sentence, and then all of a sudden you start, sending a text in all caps. The new frontier, and there's so many of them, they're coming so fast. It's not license plate readers. It's not facial recognition. The new frontier is emotional recognition. Walmart is already doing this. And I wish I was making this up. Walmart is using cameras in the stores. I don't know that this is widespread yet. This may still be in the pilot phase. But they're using cameras in the stores that are trying to read people's emotions. So in other words, if I'm standing in the grocery aisle and I pick up a can of soup and I kind of give one of those looks like, really? And I put the can of soup back, that's a data point. A consumer was interested enough to pick up the can of soup, but they saw something on the label that made them put it back. Maybe it's the ingredients. Maybe it was the price. But they are getting to the point that it's not enough to know Jon Padfield was in this aisle looking at this product. That's not enough data. We need to know what you were thinking. And by using cameras and reading facial expressions, they're trying to figure that out. And when you start looking at things like normally the person types capitalizing the first word of a sentence, but now they send a text message that's in all caps, that's an important piece of information because that person is upset. So maybe police need to go do a red flag on them and confiscate their firearms because this person's mad. Or they were writing in all caps to this person who happens to be in elected office. We may need to send the FBI out to have a talk with that person. When the AI is starting to try and figure out somebody's emotional state, this doesn't end well for anyone.
It can't, because our emotions are attached to us as people, our soul, right? If something's upsetting or something matters to us, that's ours. That's truly ours. And they're taking that away from us.
They can't control that.
And for what? So they can sell me more bullshit marked up and with the MSG in it and stuff. Maybe he likes the poison over here. Maybe he likes this lesser poison. Who knows? And that's did Carissa join here with us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. If she hops on, she's one of these people that she does homeopathy. She comes on the stream here. And she's more focused on the health and wellness and well-being of people through the natural remedies, through the natural, just how we are as people. We came from like what we used to do hundreds of years ago, right? So with this level of surveillance, they are, calculating and getting more data points on what? For consumerism, right? So they can sell us things, and it's not just to control us. I mean, yeah, they're doing that too, but it's so that they can herd you. And that's the thing is, as Chris, you give me so much insight on how marketing works. And in order to understand marketing at your level, you have to really understand people and what they do and what their behaviors are, how they react to things. And it's just one of those things. It just comes with the territory, right? So with these things, they're getting these data points, getting our emotional states. That's the thing is that really bothers me to the sense of that's ours. And here's the thing is like some things make me mad. But then I have to practice emotional intelligence and not be so mad and then calm down. But here's the thing is, if these cameras are already wrong, if these data points are already wrong, and they are, and they get your emotional state wrong, and they see somebody's coming out all angry all the time and stuff. So, and then they disappear for 10 hours out of the day. Where did they go? What did they do? Now they're the suspect in other crimes, and then they're going to be, looked into further. And when I say looked into, I'm going to say violated human resources, right? And that's what we are. Cattle, chattel, chickens, call us that, call us whatever you want. But guess what? We're human beings and we deserve better. That's just how it is. So welcome, Carissa, to the stream. It's nice to see you. We have Dr. Jon Padfield here, and he's offering us a lot of wisdom and insight, especially coming from the political side of things. And it meshes well because you're able to speak about it and how it affects us socially and how it affects us with just how we use our technology in everyday use. So I have a question for you, Jon, and then we can open up some discussion after this one, because we're gonna start discussing the Ring doorbells and stuff. This is on everybody's door. Like, everybody I know has a Ring doorbell. So we'll get to that. But I asked about the oversight there. Jon, this question for you: do you have any advice for the people at home on what they can do to push back on surveillance technology like flock safety? I mentioned the gentleman in Bend, Oregon, that was able to rally people up in his community, make a thing of this. What's your take on this? What can we do?
I'm going to come back to that question in just 1 second. I want to share my screen one more time.
Absolutely.
Because this ties in
Please do.
directly. I was speaking at an event in Georgia last November, and I had a person approach me and say, I was on a walking trail through a woods and I ran upon a flock camera. And that really struck me odd, because she said it was in a woods and it was a paved walking trail. I said, are you sure it was a flock camera? And she said, yes. And I pulled out my phone, I blew up a map, and I said, can you show me exactly where this was? So I went out the next morning to see it for myself and get pictures. And she was almost right. It was not a flock camera. It was a flock microphone. This is Flock's website, Flock Safety.
What?
And this is called Flock Raven. And it is not a camera. It's just a microphone. And originally, this was sold as a gunshot detector. You put this in the city, and if somebody fires a firearm, the AI attached to this microphone is supposed to be able to separate fireworks versus a car backfiring versus a firearm being discharged. And that's the way that it's sold. This will notify police a gun was just discharged near this location. And if you have two of these, then it will do a time differential. This microphone picked it up, and 2/3 of a second later, this microphone picked it up. And you can do the math and say, here is approximately where the shot was fired from. Well, Flock pushed a software update because this was sold as just being for gunshot detection. It doesn't listen to your conversations. It only listens for gunshots before they push the software update. Now, detect gunfire and critical sounds. What does that mean? Well, they use different language in different places. On their website, they say critical sounds. On other websites, they say sounds of distress. Okay, what does that mean? If someone is yelling help, okay, you're doing some word recognition. If someone's yelling help, what if two people are arguing? Are you detecting raised voices? Are you parsing words? This person threatened that person. The whole point is, this is no longer just a gunshot detector. It's now detecting critical sounds, which means whatever we want it to mean. We're listening for sounds of distress, which could mean absolutely anything. And if you're listening for sounds of distress, that means you're listening to conversations, and then AI is determining, is there something alarming in this conversation? So what it means, at least at Kennesaw State, where there's a woods next to the university, if you're walking through the woods on a people trail, be careful what you say, because even though it's not a camera, there are Flock microphones attached to AI that are listening for, quote, sounds of distress. And I'll share a real quick anecdote. This is not related to Flock. This is related to Amazon and Alexa. And I hate to admit this, a number of years ago, many years ago, I had an Alexa inside my house. They are all gone now, been gone for years. But here is the day that I got rid of all the Amazon Alexa devices in my house. My daughter came home from college, and she was telling me about something embarrassing that had happened in class that day. So I'm sitting in the living room. She's standing in the living room, just came through the door, but she's telling her story. And she said, quote, "I thought I was going to die," talking about some embarrassing incident that happened in class. Instantly, Alexa spoke up and said, "Do you want me to call 911?" Wait a minute. She did not say, "Alexa, I thought I was going to die." She just said, "I thought I was going to die."
Wow.
In the documentation, Alexa only listens for Alexa, the wake word. Bull. I have absolute concrete proof that is not true. And that day, I took every Amazon Echo out of my house into my garage, took a 3-pound sledgehammer to them, and they were a pile of rubble before they went into the trash bin.
Office
Love it.
spaced it.
Yeah, so this is what we all have to be careful of. If you have an AI installed on your phone has a microphone. How do you know if your phone is listening to you? You really don't. And I'll share one other anecdote. This was November 4th of last year. So we're only talking 2 months ago. November 4th of last year, I was doing some public speaking in Louisville, Kentucky. This is about 6:37 p.m. But as I'm speaking, there's about 30 people in the room. Simultaneously, every phone in the room went off, including mine. And I knew that I had mine set on silent, but every phone in the room went off with an audible alert. And so, I stopped the presentation. I pulled my phone out, as everybody did. The city of Louisville hit the big alert button because can't remember if it was FedEx or UPS. I think it was FedEx. A plane crashed at the airport, and it was an emergency alert from the city telling everyone to stay indoors. So, okay, they overrode the fact that I had my phone set on silent to push this emergency alert. 2 people in the front row spoke up and said, "My phone was turned off." No, you thought it was, but your phone was not turned off. If your phone was truly off, they wouldn't have been able to send an emergency alert to it. So even when you think your phone is turned off because you hit the power button and you watch the screen go dark, that phone is not off. It can still be woken up by the city's pushing an emergency alert. So I just want to caution anyone, if you are having a sensitive conversation, you really need to get the electronics out of the room. I'm a big believer in Faraday bags. I'm getting ready to do another video on Faraday bags, but my current favorite is Mission Darkness. I have no financial affiliation with them, but Mission Darkness, I've done testing on them. I'm a former engineer, and Mission Darkness work extremely well. I'm not saying they're the only good one, but out of the ones that I have tested so far, they were the best. But I do have another video coming out next month where I'm going to be testing some additional Faraday bags.
Good to know.
That is good to know. Thank you so much
Really?
for sharing that with us. I guess that answers the question. If a bear farts in the wood and nobody's around to hear it, does it make a sound? And I guess
Flock knows.
I guess Mr. CEO at Flock, I guess good job knowing about this critical information that you needed. Okay, we have a question here. Not a far from this is from how do you say this? Ceylon Codes? Ceylon? I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Chiloni Codes. This is actually our guest for next week.
Okay. Of course, I should have remembered that. Sorry about that. Not a far cry for all this tech to be triangulated, and we are essentially a step away from the total information awareness. Yeah. I do believe we are a step away from total information awareness, and that's I think the big thing is why we're all here, and why we all have this orientation of seeking and stuff. That we do have an issue with this, and you mentioned that those microphones can triangulate your position based off of the time differentials from a sound hitting one camera to a sound hitting another. If it's 2 seconds away, the distance, right? And how many other cameras are the ones that you don't see? And that's the scariest part, is these are the ones that we can see and that we know about. What are they actually doing with the ones that we can't see, the secret deals that they have in businesses? Maybe they're sticking these outside of a gas station and stuff where you might want to talk with people, things like this. And you mentioned, with these cameras and stuff that look at our emotional behaviors. And, you go out in the woods and you have a conversation with God. if that's your thing, or you just want to talk to yourself to relieve some stress. They're getting private information out of you because you're trying to disconnect from the world. And I think that's a lot of what we've done here, is not just because of the privacy, but it's also because, the world, it's fucking crazy. Excuse my language. But that's Susie and I, we live out in Hawaii. We're out in the middle of the jungle. Okay. We're as far remote from the world as you can get. Carissa, she does a lot of homeopathy. We all do gardening, things like this. We're shopping for gardening, we're shopping for seeds, we're shopping for this and that. Now they have a profile on us that, hey, these people might want to detach from the grids. And so what are they covering their bases out there in the woods? They're putting these microphones out there for when people inevitably lose their homes because there's no jobs because the AI and surveillance is picking up. That's one take on it. Or there's no reason to have these things out in the woods is the thing. Is how many crimes are committed were out in the woods where people are screaming, things like this. You see it on the news. What justifies this to spy on everybody? If you can save one person, was all that information to exploit everybody else on the hundreds, even thousands of people that might have walked past that saying personal things? The answer to that is, I think everybody should be saved. I think everybody should be safe, but this is not the way. This is not the path. And I think there's better methods to do these things, right? If there's crime out there happening, you put a cop out there. That's his job. Park rangers, give them some duties to where they can protect against these things. Doing the normal human ways of helping people, right? Because this just isn't helping us. It's not helping me. It's not helping anybody. And if it's to sell me more poisons, all this, I get it from the business idea of things. I run a company. And it's just one of those things that, where's the line? And it's a line that I wouldn't cross. I know it's a line that none of you would cross. So we have a lot of questions coming up here, by the way, that we'll have to answer. So a lot of what we said we'll probably have to repeat. But with these things said, let me ask you this question, and this is an important question before we move on. And I asked this a couple streams ago. If they gave all this data and information to everybody in the world, and you had access to this, I had access to this, Susie, Chris, Nathan, Chris, you guys all get access to this data and information that they're all collecting on us, would you take a look under the hood? Would you have a gander at things to see what's going on? Would you? And if you don't have to answer these questions, it's just one of those questions that's out there. We answered this like a couple streams ago, and some of the answers were yes. Like, hey, let's see what kind of crazy people are living in our neighborhoods. And I think most people's answer to that would be yes, they would look at this information, right? But here's the thing: is they're not going to get access to the information. You're not going to get access to it. I'm not going to get access to it. And that's the scariest thing, is we don't know who has access to this data and information. It's not just police. Police are just one people on the contract that get access to these things. So, and they all get siphoned through the same systems, through the same data centers, using the same data links that go through cell phone towers. Those cell phone towers then have, the technology that siphons the data from that for whatever reasons, whether it be national security or whether it's the internet service provider doing this stuff to collect data and analytics on how these things are used. So it is a broad spectrum. They do use that vague language, right? It could mean it's open to interpretation. And really what that means is, here's how it is kind of on the surface, but we'll argue about that later if we have to argue about that. And I think that's the biggest thing that we've seen with this movement. From the cypherpunk movement to this movement now, we see it in Bend, Oregon, where we have the community itself is able to come together and get these things out of our neighborhoods, out of our off of our highways, and get your freedom back. And that's just one part of it, right? We have to ask who's benefiting and who's not. But then we come back to these normal things like our cell phones. They're recording. Alexa, it's recording. And that leads us to the next one, the state of surveillance with Ring doorbells.
Well, I think John was going to answer that last one there.
Oh yeah, sorry, John.
I was going to say, I think I would resist the temptation of looking up anyone that I know, because I really believe in protecting people's privacy. I'm not going to be looking up family members or neighbors or coworkers. My biggest temptation would be looking up the people who are pushing this technology, because the people that created these databases in my mind, they have kind of set themselves up. They've lowered the bar. If they want to collect this information on everyone, I would be very tempted to take a peek at their information. But in terms of people in my life, family, coworkers, no, I really don't have any temptation to look at that. But the people that are ideologically pushing this, yeah, they've kind of painted a target on themselves, and I probably would want to take a look at their information.
Right, and there's many arguments for it, and there's I can see it from all perspectives and all the angles there. I would be highly tempted to do so. And the thing is, though, is when looking at it, even if it's people I knew or even people that allowed me to agree to it, like I had somebody where I was like, I'm going to look you up on Spokio. So I signed up on Spokio to get their information. They're like, see, I don't have anything on me out there. And that's cool. That's a great thing. But, it's even that I feel so violated with that. I've stayed in apartments to where, it was, I was there for like a week or something, or, but when I go search for my name on there, it on these search engines, it shows that I lived there, and there was no possible way to know that I lived at this place because my name wasn't on anything. I walk around. That was it. For anybody that I live this life, right? So I don't go sharing this information with people out there in the world, who I am, what I'm about, and it listed all this personal stuff about me. And it knew that I lived there. And it didn't just do this once. It did this for like 3 different spots where I've only stayed there for maybe a month top or something like this. That's absolutely insane to me. How did they get that information? That means the buildings or something identified me in some way and knew that I was there for an extended period of time, and then put me as living there. There's no other way. Like I didn't drive my own car. I did Ubers. Or I was driving a company car. There's just no way. Like, and it baffles somebody. Like, yeah. Now
Uber
Uber's
probably
telling
sold you
our
out.
data information. Yeah, that's possible. They could have done that. So that
Yes, they
leads
have.
us to the state of surveillance goes beyond what it is that we know, and what it is that we know, we have to fight and push for. It's absolutely, if you go down the rabbit hole, you're going to be down that rabbit hole for quite a while. That's the thing. And when it comes to privacy, and wiretapping is another one. These things are able to be done without warrants because of some stupid bullshit. Excuse my language. It's case law, so it's the Supreme Court ended up dealing with this, and they had arguments and stuff that they're able to surveil you digitally online without a warrant because of some old telegraph phone laws and stuff, that it was some loophole. And they do these loopholes where it can mean this, it's vague, and yeah, you can argue, yes, you needed it for that, but because that's data transmission between 2 points, they take that from this and bring it over here to a data transmission between 2 points, and now they want to intercept that. They want to collect this information not only, but they can look at this stuff without warrants. But here's the thing: is even if they get a warrant, we just discussed geofencing last week. I didn't even know what that was, to be honest. Like I knew, but I didn't ever attach the word
Not the
geofencing.
extent.
And especially at the extent, it's where you can draw a circle on a map, and the police are like, I can't get a warrant on this one person. They're maybe in this area, maybe they're not. They convinced some dumb judge somewhere to sign off on it. And here's the thing: is not just one dumb judge. Like, it's like 25% of Google's law enforcement requests are for the geofencing data. They want to know who's around in an area, and they can summon this data from Google, from all these companies, Flock, if they were so wanting to do. They can get this information with a warrant that's signed off on, so it's legal. This is justice, right? And then collect information on everybody that's in that circle, in and out of that circle, and everything that happens within that circle, collected by the things that we pay for. And then the people that are searching us and for us are the people that we pay for, because it's taxes and coming out of our money. So
And that's why they try to label all these things legally with such a vague language, because they want to make it so vague so they can push the envelope on this.
Absolutely. So they can lead to more things that they want that does not benefit us. So it's not just a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword being stabbed into us and it's being twisted. It's creating a big problem. And the problem, it extends beyond just the normal technology that we know about. But here's the thing. I can't go down the road without 50 different houses looking at me through their Ring doorbells. And that's the next topic of discussion, guys and gals, is the Ring doorbells, and this can lead into a lot of different things. But what's your take on this, John? I look into this stuff every day, and when they signed that deal with Flock, and when Amazon openly admitted that they just shared this data information with police without a warrant, this has been known for a long time. So this isn't just Alexa. This is everybody in and out of our neighborhoods, and they can triangulate things based off of the cameras. These cameras are constantly feeding to Amazon. They are constantly feeding to God knows who, especially with these partnerships with things like Flock. What's your take on the Ring cameras, and what can we do to protect against that?
I want to go back to something that you said just a second ago, which ties in with this. I mentioned earlier the Carpenter case, which was a Supreme Court decision handed down in 2018. The facts in the Carpenter case are very relevant to the Ring doorbells. Carpenter was a man who was convicted of 12 felonies. He was facing 120 years in prison. He had already been convicted, and he went up on appeal claiming that the FBI should have had a warrant to get the information that they used to prosecute him. Here's what happened. The lower court found that the jury found that Carpenter had recruited some people to rob stores in Detroit back around 2015, 2016. He was the mastermind behind a series of armed robberies. One of the people committing the crimes was caught, and this person who was already in police custody said that Timothy Carpenter was the one who had hired him to take part in this. So police have a person in custody who names Carpenter as the ringleader. And so what the police did with the FBI, because the FBI got involved at this point, they went to a cell phone carrier and they said, we want all of Timothy Carpenter's location history for the last year. I think it was like 27 months or something. It was well over a year. I want to say it's like 27 months. But we want his location history from his cell phone. And without a warrant, the cell phone company provided that information. And what they found was, here's all of these businesses that had been robbed in an armed robbery. And Timothy Carpenter was within a half block of every one of these at the time they were robbed. And based on that, they arrested him. They charged him. He was convicted on 12 felony counts, 6 of armed robbery and 6 of robbery and 6 of carrying a firearm during the commission of a crime. But 12 felony convictions, 120 years. His attorney argued, and this went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, the FBI should have gotten a warrant to go get his location history for nearly 2 years. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the majority opinion, and this was a 5-4 decision, so this is a razor-thin decision. But Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the decision, and he said, this is something new for the court. And he is citing precedent, and he cited 3 different cases. And he said, in this case, I believe it was the Katz case. In the Katz case, law enforcement had attached a GPS tracker to someone's car without a warrant, and they collected information about where this person was going, and then they used that information to prosecute. And the court ruled that is unconstitutional. You need a warrant to put a GPS tracker on someone's car. And the language of the court in the Katz case said, following someone around with a GPS tracker on their car reveals, quote, intimacies of life. Intimacies of life means, where do you worship, if you worship at all? Where do you shop? Where do you work? Who are your friends? Who do you hang out with? Where did you spend the night last night and the night before that? So your sex life, your worship, your hobbies, the intimacies of life can be determined by putting a GPS tracker on your car. And the court ruled in this case, putting a GPS tracker on someone's car requires a warrant because you are going to reveal intimacies of life through using a GPS tracker. Then he cited two other cases, and I'm going from memory now. I believe one was the Miller case and one was the Jones case. In one of those cases, and I can't remember which was which, but one of them had to do with bank records. And the government went to the bank saying, we want bank transactions of this individual. The bank handed them over without a warrant. In the other case, it was cell phone call logs. So they weren't looking at location. They would just want to know, who did this person call? When did they call? How long did they talk? And in both of those cases, the court said, this is third-party data. The cell phone company has a record of all of your calls, and because that's third-party data, you don't need a warrant. And the bank has a record of when you took money out, who you wrote checks to. That's third-party data. You don't need a warrant. And then the court said, we have these three precedents. You need a warrant if I'm going to track someone's location. You don't need a warrant if it's third-party data like bank records or call logs. And now we have the Carpenter case, which is location data that's third-party data. And he said, this is new. We haven't dealt with this specific issue before. But the decision of the court in 2018 by a 5-4 vote, they said that this should be treated like the GPS tracker because it is revealing the intimacies of life. If I am using a GPS tracker on your car, or I'm using your location history because the cell phone company knows exactly where you've been for the last year and a half, those are revealing intimacies of life, and that requires a warrant. And this is the case that I mentioned earlier. The use of advanced technology for an extended period of time requires a warrant. In my opinion, flock cameras are the equivalent of putting a GPS tracker on a car. The difference is, if I am law enforcement and I want to put a tracker on one person's car, I need a warrant. Supreme Court has ruled black and white. If I want to put a tracker on someone's car, I need a warrant. Now, if I don't put a tracker on, but I put cameras up every block so that I can track where they're going, functionally, I've done the same thing. I'm tracking where people are driving, but rather than tracking one car, I'm tracking everybody's car. In my opinion, the Carpenter case would apply to what flock safety is doing because you're tracking everyone's movements. But that is the case that was just dismissed by a federal judge in the Eastern District of Virginia, and the Institute for Justice has filed an appeal that's going to go to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, and I am writing an amicus brief to help them with that. So that was the little bit of the context there. When it comes back to your question specifically about Amazon Ring, I would argue the same thing. Amazon Ring, because Amazon has somewhere around Amazon Ring has about 35% market share for video doorbells in the United States. I made a video on this just a couple of weeks ago. The video that I made was called "What is the most secure, or what is the most private video doorbell?" It's not Ring. Unfortunately, it's not Eufy either. That's what I have on my house that I'm going to be replacing very, very soon. But the point is, about 35% of all video doorbells in the United States are Amazon Ring doorbells. And so now, if I am going anywhere, there is a risk my face is going to be logged. I'm walking down the street. I'm walking near this house, not even necessarily on the house or in the house, but these doorbells are going to be picking people up. And so again, in my mind, the Supreme Court has said you need a warrant if you're going to put a GPS tracker on somebody's car because that reveals intimacies of life. I think that the Ring doorbells are going to be the functional equivalent of that. So I would hope that when this case goes up on appeal, that the court is going to find that, yes, you're doing the functional equivalent of putting a GPS tracker on people.
It's absolutely true.
It is absolutely true, and I'm without words for it because the intimacies of life. You go on a date with your significant other. You take your children anywhere, whatever it may be. That doesn't matter because it's private. It's privacy, right? And I think that's a good way to look at it. Is privacy? What does it cover? It covers the intimacies of life, right? The
Mhm.
Fourth Amendment protects us, or used to protect us from unreasonable searches and seizures. And that's the thing is if they know all this information about us, it's it's loaded is what I can say. But that it's good to know
Unfortunately,
that
the information isn't
we
always
we
accurate.
yeah, and it's not always accurate. It's good to know that that can be utilized, that it violates the intimacies of life. And that's the thing is there's so much that violates the intimacy of life. When I looked into that geofencing and all the data and information that they truly have on people, it goes beyond just the intimacies of life. I feel like it's almost to me as if it's spiritual warfare because everything about you is like every cover that covers everything about you is stripped away and you're exposed at like the soul level. You want to read a certain book, what inspired this person to read that book, right? That's you as a person.
Yeah.
And that just does not belong to anybody that you don't wish to share that with. And that's your loved ones, that's your friends and your family if you so choose. But and that's the thing is it's destroying our personal relationships with people, because it's not just how many times did you think something and the next time you see it on Facebook in an advertisement, did they scan your mind? No, they probably push that shit into your head. And they have psychologists that work with these companies. It's the top paid positions for these social media platforms. And I promise you that there's psychologists or people who understand these things that we're trying to understand at a Albert Einstein level. They know
Mhm.
people and they know how people react so that they can what? So they can sell us things, so they can do things that benefit them and their companies and their shareholders, whatever it may be. There's all these arguments. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I don't agree with it. I'm not about it. I'm about privacy. And I think that's what we're all here about. But here's the thing is they're getting on some next level bullshit with this stuff. Like I think we'll skip over this Ring doorbell stuff for right now because I think we kind of covered this already. And there's really not much to know other than your all this private information, you sitting on your porch, walking even up and down the street, you saying anything, all goes to the same database that the flock databases are holding and stuff. So they share information with each other, obviously. This is a big
You
one,
know,
and I think
if
Carissa
you don't
can
mind,
help
I just
with
want to
this.
say one thing about Ring.
Yeah.
It's just that like the danger of it is like what John was saying is that the market share. That's really the risk. Is if there's just one Ring doorbell per neighborhood, it doesn't really do a whole lot. Like unless you walk right in front of that one house, that's it. And then they don't know what happened from there. You just vanish after you leave the camera view. But the problem is, Ring has become like this cultural phenomenon, and now it's almost like a status symbol. And you need to have a Ring doorbell to be cool. And you see like neighborhood groups. I talked before on a stream where I moved to that apartment that just turned out to be a surveillance hellhole, and they had this group in the neighborhood would all talk about it and they would share videos with each other. And like, it wouldn't be like, oh, look at this guy, he's up to no good. It would be like, look at this guy tripped when he was carrying his groceries, and it was just like, I saw people like, can you believe this lady's wearing these shoes with that dress? And this was, to them, was completely acceptable. And everything that anybody did anywhere in this neighborhood was all under surveillance. And so that's acceptable to people. And now their friends, people would post stuff, be like, oh, my friends are jealous because none of their neighbors have Ring doorbells, so they don't get to do this. And so now it's become a thing. There's demand for it. So home builders who want to sell homes that are the new and modern, they feel like they need to have some kind of smart doorbell on there. And since Ring's the big popular one, that's the likely one they first look at. And so then Ring will offer these massive discounts to builders and say, if you're going to buy 100 doorbells and put one on every single house in your neighborhood, we'll give it to you really cheap because again, for that's a data play for them. If they're selling you a doorbell to some guy in the middle of nowhere, they need to get the money for the doorbell because his data is really not valuable because it's not linked to 30 other doorbells. But if you're talking about a neighborhood of 500 homes, and they're going to put one of those doorbells on every single home. They have all of the data on anything that ever happens in that home. And since usually these are richer neighborhoods where they're putting these doorbells, you now have data and collection on all of the rich, affluent people in this neighborhood using the technologies like John said. They can see your bumper stickers. They know who you're voting for. They know where your kids go to school because of the bumper sticker. You know, my kid's an honor student at so-and-so school. They know, which things you want to vote for. They know if you like cats or dogs because of your bumper stickers. So, I mean, the amount of information that they can gather when they get a doorbell on every home in a neighborhood is just absolutely mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling. It's
I
mind-rattling.
have to share something real quick with you. Let me share my screen one more time.
Please do.
This is a news story from December 2023. Cities giving away video doorbells to keep neighborhoods safe, but no evidence the technology prevents crime. Want to guess what brand of video doorbell that they were giving away?
Is that Amazon?
That's our tax dollars. Or
Ring,
this
ring,
wasn't
ring.
my neighborhood, but
Los Angeles?
cities taking tax dollars to buy Ring doorbells to give away. Yeah, this is one of the reasons they have 35% market share in the United States.
Yeah, they make this thing. They make this all openly acceptable, and it's not openly acceptable, in my opinion. But the people don't really understand. They just go, "Oh, free stuff for my house." My own family, they they don't know technology like I do. Not even a fraction of a percent of the knowledge I have of technology, and that's okay. But that's the thing is they use these things because they're just so simple to stick on your door. Put your phone to it, and all of a sudden it just works. You don't have to care. And then you can see everybody and everything outside your house. It's that is insane though, that it's our tax dollars that are going towards that. So again, it's like we're paying for our own suffering, if you truly value privacy, and we're paying for somebody else to get rich while we suffer from these things. And when so much here's the thing is, like, you could take all this information, all this data, and you can be the CEO of Palantir, the CEO of Ring, and the CEO of Flock, and you can say, "Hey, look at all these great things that we're doing." Just massively make it transparent, of how all of this stuff is being used for good. Like, you have that power, you have that data, you have, like, hey, look, this person made a friend. This person did a great kind thing for them without knowing or having any expectation of a reward for doing something kind, something nice. Wouldn't that be nice to see the goodness in the world? I mean, I see it already. You have it in church groups, we have in our own friend groups and things like this. And there's greatness out there. There's amazingness out there. There's loveliness to this world. It's just absolutely great for what's truly happening. But you don't see any of this stuff. They don't care about these things. And it's not that they don't value our privacy. They don't even value us as human beings. Like I said, we're just a resource to them. We're just a means for them to get more stuff for whatever it is that they may use. And I mean, I get national security. I understand those things because you got to stop, like, crazies from blowing us up and shit, right? You have to, right? But at the same time, too, where's the good in all of this? Really, it really scares me, and it scares me to the sense of I have to take breaks from this, guys. Like, I have to, like, look away and not even look at the news, because not everybody has the eyeballs to see the things that we can see. And it's one of those things that you mentioned before, Nathan, about the mental health aspect to it. The mental health aspect to it. If anybody knew a fraction of what it is that John here knows, or Chris here knows, or Nathan or Susie or Carissa. If you have just a fraction of what it is that we've known and what it is that we've experienced, and we're the ones at VP, we're the ones that look seriously into these technologies, not just to stop surveillance, but to offer that layer of protection between us and the rest of the world, right? And I think that's what the world needs most, is a layer between them and the systems that surveil us, right? You need a layer between you and that, so that you can value your household, so that you can value your private space, so that you can be in a room on a whiteboard coming up with some stuff, and somebody doesn't just use that flock camera to straight up steal your innovation, to steal your work. And that's the thing is, when this data is saved into the databases, when it's saved into those data centers, it's not always that they just keep the video. I'm sure they'll keep that as long as they can, but they compress it down to text. So they just go white male, blue shirt, white shoes, things like this, and they tag certain things, and it's come to the ability where they can store so much data. Think about it. You have a video on your hard drive. It's 1 terabyte, right? It's 100 megabytes. You have a text file of explaining what's in that video. It's like what, 100 kilobytes tops. So they can store vast amounts of data and information on us, and it's nothing to them. It means absolutely nothing to them, especially when they just land a new contract, and that contract's, oh, it's 100 million. We'll take 27 million and then buy an entire city's worth of hard drives. And they do this. You can be driving past some warehouses in some industrial place, and it looks empty and all that stuff, right? And maybe it's not empty. Maybe it's got hard drives in it. We wouldn't know. So there's a difference between secrecy and privacy, right? Secrecy is you have things you got to protect. You can't let the world know. Privacy is, it's what you want to do, right? Without having any eyeballs looking in. They're operating in secrecy. We're trying to operate in privacy. So there's a line between it, and right now I think that's the push for the line. Where does the line come towards? We need. My opinions on these things is there needs to not be the secrecy, but the loophole is they operate in that gray area of what's happening and what they're really doing, and what they found loopholes for what they're actually doing in the lines of what they're doing, right? And there's these are people that are engineers, right? These are people that are like, this is what they do. They're the think tanks behind these things, and that's why they're in the positions that they are. They're the smartest people that the world can come up with, right? And so you think they haven't thought of these things? Like, they do. They actively think of these things, and they don't care. They don't care. And that's the thing is, but I care. I know you all care. And I won't kick it on somebody's porch with somebody if they have Ring doorbells. It's weird. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we want to talk like guy talk and stuff, and but it's just feels weird, with the AI scanning that. And I don't want to hang out in somebody's backyard if they have a Ring doorbell, because we should be able to hang out without the uninvited guests, right? I think that's more than reasonable. I mean, for what's needed. But that's the thing, is it's not just more than reasonable. It's one of those things that should just be common sense. It should be just common decency and have some dignity with these things, to not do these things to us, to not put these things in our faces, and then to not use your psychology behind things, where they know, oh, all my friends have a Ring camera, so I'm going to get a Ring camera too, because they said it's easy to set up. They know these things, and it's just about market share. It's just about money, and it's just about it's about a lot of things, and that's the argument for these things, is what is this stuff about? Who's benefiting? Who's not? And these systems all go hand in hand. They're all feeding data and information to each other in one big circle. Whether they're paying for it or not, they're making money off it somehow, or else they wouldn't be doing it. It's the only thing that makes the world go round. So with the Ring cameras and Flock, that leads us to the big giant one. And not too many people know about these guys. Not too many people know about the company itself. But if you look into it, it will straight up, like I said, if you go down that rabbit hole, you'll be down that rabbit hole for a second. But what's on the surface with this company and these people, it will really make you truly say, what the absolute fuck? How can we allow these things? And how are these CEOs openly admitting to like destroying governments and peoples with this? And that's Palantir and government data fusion. So I know you had that important question, Chris, the one about governments and corporations. Can you answer that for me real quick?
Yes, sir. Well, I just got to find that real quick. Okay. So yeah, the question is, who do you trust less with your data, governments or corporations, and why?
Wow. Is there a third option? I was a witness to an FDA, they call it an investigation, but it was an audit. And the auditor asked an engineer, are you incompetent or negligent? And they were not speaking to me, but I remember thinking, I would not want to answer that question because there is no right answer. Uh, I really don't trust anybody, and I mean anybody. I wouldn't trust my best friend with this much data. I wouldn't trust myself with this much data. So just to say, do I trust a private company or a government more? Not our government, and that's not a partisan statement because I wouldn't have trusted our last government either. I don't trust anyone with this. Um, are there organizations that might handle it responsibly? Maybe for a while, but I can't help but think of that old expression, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think this is too much power for anyone to have. There was a great scene in the Dark Knight movie. Dark Knight Rises was the last one. This would have been the Christopher Nolan movie with Heath Ledger as Joker. Batman decides to go full surveillance mode and turn every cell phone in Gotham into a surveillance device to try and locate the Joker. And Alfred is ready to quit and walk out on him because, this is too much power. And Batman, being a fictional character, had enough moral integrity to destroy the thing. But the point is, our government wouldn't, private companies wouldn't. So I don't trust anyone with it. But you bring up Palantir, and I want to share something. I'm going to share my screen one more time here. I'm pushing my luck. This is a video that I made last Sunday, and I timed it to come out right after the NFC Championship. It's a metaphor. I paid a human artist to create these two team logos, the Surveillance Titans and the Civil Liberties Sentinels. But I wanted to create a memorable metaphor for the general public because people like us, we're tuned in on this. We're dialed in pretty well. We understand what we're up against. Most people don't. And what I want to do is create some tools that are going to help people have conversations with their friends and neighbors. So I created this concept of there are two big teams out there, and one of the teams is called the Surveillance Titans. And starting at quarterback is Palantir. And I did this theoretical, these are the theoretical lineups, the starting lineup for the Surveillance Titans, Palantir, Flock, Fog Data Science, etc. But I just give a couple of words of explanation of what these 11 companies are all about. Clearview AI, Google, Meta, Amazon, LexisNexis. These are the titans. Some of these companies are worth trillions of dollars. And when you combine just the starting lineup, and they have a very deep bench, people in the comment section kept saying, why didn't you mention this company and this company? And I said, there's only 11 spots on the starting lineup, but they have a very deep bench. But think of them as a team because they're working together. Oracle is absolutely working with other companies, Palantir, Flock, and some of these others, because they have the same goal. They want total surveillance. And not to get black-pilled, there is another team out there, and I refer to them as the Civil Liberties Sentinels. And for the Civil Liberties Sentinels, I came up with their starting lineup. And I want to stress, none of these companies gave me permission to mention them. I have a disclaimer in the video saying these companies are not endorsing or sponsoring or anything. But the metaphor, the Civil Liberties Sentinels, there are a lot of organizations that are pushing back on this. This is a very lopsided David and Goliath fight because the Civil Liberties Sentinels, the biggest ones, have budgets of tens of millions of dollars. But on the Surveillance Titan side, some of those companies are worth trillions of dollars. But this is what I came up with for the Civil Liberties Sentinel starting lineup. And I had to use
When
some
is
AI to make
tryouts?
this. This is the
Hide to Speak would
Surveillance
like to
Titans
try out.
putting up their hydration staff. Their water boys work in Washington. But here's where I'm going with all of this. After creating this metaphor of the Civil Liberties Sentinels are the people pushing back on the Surveillance Titans, I came up with the idea to try and get people to have more conversations. how do you bring up a subject of surveillance with your friends? Some people are a little bit timid. They may agree with us philosophically. This may be people in my audience and your audience. They agree with us philosophically, but they're a little bit timid because they don't want to sound like they need a tinfoil hat. So I came up with the idea of making these logos and putting these logos on merchandise, shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs. And the whole idea is this is not just telling people which side you're on. This is a conversation starter because that looks like a real logo. And if somebody says, is that a real team or who's the Civil Liberty Sentinels? There is your golden ticket to strike up the conversation and talk about, this is the side I'm on because there is another side called the Surveillance Titans, and they are collecting all of our data from your cell phone, from your computer, from your license plates, et cetera, et cetera.
I think that's a great idea.
I just encourage people. This is one of
Really
a couple
cool.
of ideas that I've come up with to try and get more of the public involved in this discussion. Like I said earlier, Sun Tzu, The Art of War, the best way to win is to convince your opponent to surrender. And too many people in the American public have pretty much put up the white flag. They're not pushing back because they think the fight's already over. No, the fight is just beginning. And doing things like this, I make a couple of dollars off this. It's not about the money. It's the idea of getting out there and putting the colors out there in front of people, the red, white, and blue for the Civil Liberty Sentinels, getting people asking, what's that all about? And telling them about, there is a battle going on right now for your data. Do you have the right to leave your house without being in a database? And so I just encourage people, if you're interested, this is one tool for having these conversations with people that you work with, people that you run into on the street, family members, or anyone else. I am proud to wear the colors, the red, white, and blue. It runs in my blood. But this is just one tool for having these conversations. I have another video coming out very shortly. And the next video that I'm going to be doing, not the next, but a video that I have coming out in February. If you are old enough, you may remember this game as a kid called Travel Bingo. It was a bingo card, 5x5, and it had things, a cow, a convertible, a phone booth. It was called Travel Bingo, and it was a way of keeping the kids occupied before everyone had smartphones. And the idea was kids sitting in the back seat going on family vacation would look for these things on the bingo card. I'm adopting that idea, and I'm calling it surveillance bingo. And I am listing 25 different forms of surveillance, and people can look for these 25 forms of surveillance. Flock cameras, flock drones, body cameras, dash cameras, the Leonardo antenna packages that are picking up all of your Bluetooth devices as you drive by. But I've got 25 different pieces of surveillance tech. I'm turning that into a free download on my website. It's not there yet. It'll be up there by the end of next week, but a free download it, print it, pass them out, because most people are going to look at that 25 different types of surveillance. Yep. And that's not all of them, but these are the 25 that you can go out today and spot. Go through Best Buy. I was through Best Buy. I don't go in there often, but I was in Best Buy about 2 weeks ago, and I walked down an aisle and I did a double take at the electronic shelf labels, the ESLs. The ESL was, 1.25 inches by about 3.5 inches. It's a LCD display that shows the price of the item, but I did a double take because I thought that looks like a camera. Yes, it is. I took a photo of the shelf label. I went home and I looked it up, and yes, that is a camera built into the shelf label. So as I was walking down the aisle at Best Buy, there's probably 60 different cameras watching me at eye level to see what I picked up and what I put back. So this level of surveillance is absolutely ridiculous, and I want to get people recruited to be on our side. In this video that I made about the Civil Liberty Sentinels and the Surveillance Titans, I introduced the concept of the 12th man. And this is a well-known phenomenon in sports. When the crowd gets really energized, they give life to the home team. they can disrupt the other team's offense. And we have got to turn the public into the 12th man and get them on our side and get them actively engaged, because I really do believe that the Supreme Court is sitting back waiting for the consensus to form. And if we don't make enough noise, and I'm not talking about going out and doing anything dumb or violent, we need to be using our voices to be heard so that the Supreme Court knows the American public does not want this. But if we are quiet, I know which side's going to win if we're quiet. We have got to be making enough noise to let the courts know this is not acceptable.
I fully agree, and that's the thing is we can make the noise for sure, and we need the people to make the noise. And here's the thing: is the tools already exist to push back against these things. Secure encrypted ways of talking to each other. Like a company like ours, being that layer of protection between you and the rest of the internet. More private cameras. Having your own data within your household. On a home router that your cameras pass through to, do your own recordings, your own smart home systems that you control, self-hosting. And a lot of these, you have to be technically inclined, but also if it comes down to recruiting people, we need those technically smart people out there to not just push the solutions. The solutions are there, but to be there for other people who want to become aware of these solutions. Like right now, like if Susie and I chose to do so, we could make everything encrypted, make our entire life private and encrypted. But it's one of those things that we don't want it to let all of this privacy violation exploitation push us to that. But that's the thing is it is pushing us to that. It's pushing everybody to that. We look at these geopolitical affairs going on, with ICE and, the Epstein files, protecting kids and stuff. Here's the thing: is like, I'm just done with their bullshit. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't even want the justifications for why things are the way they are and what they're doing. It's just, it's maniacal. It's insane. It makes no sense. And if we wanted to put down two pieces of paper, consent for, are you against these companies? And I absolutely love that you had that the two teams idea. That's actually amazing. I actually fully wholeheartedly agree with everything you just said, and the way you're going about it. That's something unique and new that I think is just cool. And I think that's a part of what I'm saying. What I'm getting at with this is it's cool. It gives something to be a part of, something to belong to. And that's the thing is with these technologies, they're open source, right? You can verify the code, you can see these things. Signal, you can verify the source, you can see these things, that all these other people are like, hey, it's good, you can use this, right? So these things are cool. When you want to go down this rabbit hole, it's absolutely cool tinkering with all this technology. It's absolutely cool knowing that you have security within your own home, on your own properties. But that's the thing is it's going to lead us to a bigger fight too. And I'm not sure if we have enough time to bring up the Palantir stuff. If you can enlighten me on that, Chris. But all these things lead to one place, right? Palantir sits at the intersection of big data, policing, and national security. So it's like, wow, we need policing, we need national security so that we feel safe in our own homes. But we don't feel safe in our own homes, right? Unless we have that truly self-hosted setup to where we manage where the data goes, where that video is stored and where we can pull it up on, and then the transmission between ourselves and our home if we're out and about to see these cameras. So with Palantir, I think it needs really no introduction, but Palantir they're like the public company that's worth megatons of money. And they're not just the United States, they're a global thing, right? These are the ones that use the AIs and stuff to weaponize the things, right? So they get this data as long with Flock as well. They have contracts with Block. They have contracts with all these other data providers, and they have contracts with social media giants like Meta, Facebook, and God knows who else. That they're all in on this together. And I think we brought up those topics. So I'm on the home team here. Come on, I want to be a sentinel. It's one of those things that I'll rock one of those shirts and go everywhere I go so that people are aware. I myself am a sentinel. I like privacy. I don't like those privacy violating titans. And here's the thing: is like if it's a UFC match and stuff, I think I'm gonna have to hit it with the left hook. And we just have to knock this out of the ballpark, and the only way to do that is to get people to be aware. And it's not even about choosing sides. Like if you choose the other side, like you're one of them. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're probably already violating people's freedoms and stuff. So it's just common sense. It makes sense, that there's really only one path forward when it comes to these things. But according to Palantir, they wholly disagree. So they sit at the intersection of big data, policing, and national security. I have a question for all of you, and this is a discussion for us. And Carissa, you haven't spoken yet, so I'd like to get you in on this as well. But John, how should the public think about companies that aggregate and analyze data from multiple sources, public, private, and commercial, especially Palantir?
They have to have some degree of oversight. They just have to. This is the video that I made a while back about Palantir. I called it Palantir because there are some lines Google won't cross. And I give the history of Palantir. They started right after 9/11. Peter Thiel and Alexander Karp. Peter Thiel was coming off of PayPal, where he had made a lot of money, so he had plenty of cash to go out and start a new company. He decided to take some technology that PayPal had created and apply it to national security. He recruited Alexander Karp, one of his college buddies, and they started Palantir. And then the CIA came along with some seed money from their venture capital group. But the first big investor in Palantir was the CIA, and that's not speculation. That is public record. But the thing is, Palantir started growing. They were working on things for the intelligence community. And then the military had what was called Project Maven. And the idea of Project Maven was, we want some artificial intelligence to look at live video streams coming from drones flying over enemy territory. And we want AI to identify targets, whether that target is an individual, a car, a building. We want AI that can take a video stream from a drone and tell us what we want to blow up. And Google won the original contract, and Google had a revolt on their hands. Several senior people at Google resigned over this. Several thousand Google employees signed a petition saying, don't even think about asking me to work on this project. We don't want to be a part of this. And Google ended up pulling out. Their initial contract was only like a 9-month contract, but they announced, we are not going to pursue the next phase of this project. So when Google pulled out, Palantir swooped in and picked up that contract, and the rest is history. But the reason I bring this up, Palantir started working with military to put warheads on foreheads. They wanted AI that could look at a video stream and then not just say, this is a target, but it would say, based on the assets we have in the area, based on the nature of the target, what is the weapons platform that we should use for taking out this target? Now, if you think this sounds a little bit like Skynet, this is totally different. This is Skynet's little brother. There is still a human in the link. Palantir's AI will select targets. It will select weapon systems, but it still takes a human to push a button to actually put a missile out there. But that's where Palantir's coming from. But they didn't stay blowing up things in the Middle East. They then said, we have all this great technology for identifying targets. Let's bring it back and put it on the streets of the US so that we can help police identify targets. And that's when we started moving into the realm of predictive policing, which Steven Spielberg made a movie about several years ago called Minority Report. Predictive policing is based on this person's social media history, based on where we have seen them going recently, based on who their friends are. This is the person the police need to be watching like a hawk, because this is the person we predict is going to break the law. Here's the horrifying thing. You may think, well, that doesn't bother me. I'm not a criminal. Maybe not yet. I've traveled around the country doing what I call the Brush Fires of Freedom tour. And I have spoken to audiences from Utah to Florida to Virginia. And I will announce I'm going to be somewhere. I'll promote it, and people turn out to have discussions very similar to what we're having right now. But here is the best response I've ever heard. I brought up the fact that people are always saying if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about. And that is a huge fallacy. And one of the people in the audience gave me the best response ever. He said, "Who gave you the right to decide if you're doing anything wrong?" Wow. Great point. How many athletes got in trouble around 2020, 2021 over something that they had tweeted in 2010, 2011? It was a 10-year-old tweet. And at the time, one or two people may have been offended, but by 2020, you're going to lose a contract over this. So the idea of AI is going to be watching you, AI is going to remember forever. What you're doing today may not be wrong today. But if society changes 5 years, 8 years, 10 years down the road, you could have your career ruined because AI remembered a comment that you made in an email to somebody 10 years ago. And that's not a theoretical, it has happened before.
And it happens often is the crazy part about it. And it happens way too often. You know, we have the regular courts, and then we have the court of public opinion, and cancel culture. Things like this exist. And yeah, how many lives have been ruined because of cancel culture, because of something that was said or done, or even if it wasn't said or done, it was just accepted that that was said or done. And that's the thing too, is what are we going to see with the AI and its predictive analysis on these things? And here's the thing: is those who invented law also invented crime. You know, the laws will change, right? But then that means the crimes will change. And that's the thing, is there's no laws for the crimes that are being committed, because it's obvious that with the surveillance systems happening right now, it's obviously there's criminal negligence, with the passwords, things like this. And it's open for interpretation, discussion. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just some guy that comes up with some good one-liners sometimes. But when it comes to Palantir, it's just, I'm sorry, but none of this is acceptable. Like, I don't care what the company is or what it is that they do. All I need to know is that they're a company and that they're getting this data from our Ring cameras, from Flock, from wherever they get it from. And they do these things to what? To weaponize, whatever it is they want to weaponize. So these are the Raytheons, the other big companies and stuff that they make bombs, things like this. So these things exist. It's just how the world is. But now we have the mass surveillance system feeding into this. So now they're using our behavioral analysis and the hidden scores that all these other tech companies put on us, and it's all going into one spot. And it's scary, because now we're at the cusp of war here in the United States. And they'll use these things like the Patriot Act, right? The Patriot Act sounds so great. Patriot, man, I'm a patriot. Wait a second, you look in the bill and it's like they just signed away all your freedoms to fight terrorism, and now they're calling us domestic terrorists in the streets. Whether or not I agree with it are two different things. I don't. But the thing is it's just not acceptable, is all I can say, without getting too heated about the situation at hand. Because when you're using these things to hurt others, that's where the line there is no line with that, honestly. It's just, you cannot use these things to hurt other people. You can use these things to save people, but what are you really saving us from? Like that certain list that was supposed to come out didn't really even come out. It's not even at a fraction of what it's come out as. So we as people, like as you said, technology moves faster than legislation. It moves faster than the whole system, right? Well, I think we're like eons above where we should be in terms of what can we do about these things, and what can we do about these people that I guess are surveilling us with their companies, and they're the ones lobbying and stuff for all the people that are keeping these things away from us. And these are the ones that are supposed to protect us and protect our families and protect the American way of life. And so I try to keep just a overall knowledge of these types of things. I just want to get your guys' opinions on Palantir. I want the world to hear what normal people have to say about these things, and from all of your perspectives. And Carissa, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on Palantir? Oh, your microphone's not on. Palantir, it's one of those ones that the more you look into it and who's operating it, it's Peter Thiel, who, he became rich off of investing $1,000 in PayPal, like $1,000. That's all it took for him to become this loaded and to support companies like Palantir and make these things. But he's out there talking about the goddamn Antichrist. Excuse my language. He's out there chanting about the Antichrist, and he won't take this off the topic and stuff. I'm sorry, but why does the biggest company in the world, as far as siphoning all of our data and information, and give the information to the people who launch missiles at people and stuff? Why is he out there so hell bent on the Antichrist? Like, if anything, these things are the Antichrist, right? It's however we look at these things, it's just crazy and weird. And then you see the CEO with his wonderful hairdo, looks like a peacock. It just absolutely, just the things he says about when asked questions, like what do you wish you could do with Palantir? And they wish they could go spray quote unquote piss on journalists. And it's like, what the hell? These are the people that are in charge of these things. And so we're expecting any tact, any professionalism, any just basic humanity from these people. Right. I don't know. Like, it's just one of those things that we're just going to have to accept that loss because it ain't going to happen. So we have to fight back with these things. We have to push towards, a better future for not just ourselves, but the future generations. Like, our the generations that will come after us and stuff. They don't need this bullshit. So we need to nip this in the bud. Chris, did you get your microphone working? Still can't hear it. All right, no worries, guys. We'll start with you, Chris. What are your thoughts on Palantir? Just give it to me real.
Yeah, so Palantir, it's sort of a weird thing. If you take a bunch of different parts for a car and then just lay them all out on the ground, then like they're really not all that useful. Like a wheel sitting there isn't going to get you anywhere. The horn's not going to get you anywhere. It's when you put them all together that the sum becomes much more valuable than all the individual parts. And now it's a useful, functional thing because all of those different parts work together. And that's sort of what Palantir is. Like, Ring doorbells on their own have some value. Flock has some value. All these individual things have a little bit of value, but there's massive holes in it. Like Flock, there's not flock cameras in all the small neighborhoods and down in the cul-de-sacs of suburbia. So that's a huge hole. They only have the main roads and down in the big cities and stuff like that. Well, now Ring, there's not a lot of Ring doorbells down in big cities because big cities, the buildings typically won't have stuff like that. So they have a huge hole in their data set. But when you put the two together, well, now a car driving from his home is picked up on every one of those Ring doorbells, and he drives through all the suburbs, and all those houses see him, and then he gets out to the city, and now all the flock cameras pick him up too. So now all of a sudden they're able to track that one car anywhere he travels. And that's what Palantir does. Is Palantir takes all of these different systems and glues them all together and builds them, with AI systems where they're quote useful, and they could do weird things like say, show me everybody in this area who was wearing a red shirt, like John was saying. So they're taking all of these tools that have a little bit of value for a surveillance network, and they're turning it into this absolute behemoth of a surveillance grid.
And that is the truth. That is the truth indeed. Nathan, what's your take on Palantir? What are your thoughts about Palantir?
Well, I think, a lot of it is they basically admit that their goal is to predict pre-crime, right? And they want to, as we all have said in this episode and episodes before, like, people act differently when you're being recorded, right? So if we all act differently when we're being recorded and their goal is to record us all the time, then isn't that basically the dystopian nightmare that we all fear? As Dr. John was talking about before, they put this vague language into everything, so everything can be misinterpreted and used legally in confusing ways. Like the patent he was showing, they called it archiving footage. Archiving for how long? right? They didn't even state how long they could archive this footage for. So everything is just so you get to own my data and my information and my visual self for an indeterminable amount of time. Like that's nonsense. Who voted for that? Who signed up for these things? Like nobody wants these things. So I guess that's my point of view on it.
And that's a good point of view to have. It's the truth, and it's just, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. What is your thoughts on this, Susie? Can you hear me, Susie? Oh, she might have microphone issues. Carissa, what are your thoughts on Palantir?
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm not so sure if anyone has mentioned this part yet, but flock safety was invested in with Peter Thiel through his venture firm Capital, which I thought was really interesting. So he was part of the whole thing of having law enforcement deploy over 2,000 flock safety cameras around the U.S. And like John was saying, with the pre-crime software, Palantir has access to our financial records, our social media history, and anything that they want to deem as a threat. We could be put on a list. And that is like a super horrifying thought because, it was like briefly mentioned how they're changing, definitions all the time. Everything isn't vagueness. And laws are constantly changing. And yeah, it's so privatized as well. Like this is not a public, I don't even like saying public surveillance company. It is private, and because it is so embedded into everything that we use, it is hard to track where any of this data or information is going, but we know it's used for malintentions.
It is used for malintentions, indeed, and they openly talk about instilling governments in places with using this technology and saying how they eradicated a certain type of people. I'm like, why would you even admit to that, for one? And then two, why is that acceptable? And it's not that it's acceptable; it's just that there's so little we can do about these things. Palantir they're just, I don't know. My opinions on them are just obviously negative. But if we need to see more on what's actually happening and seeing it without seeing it, right? You can form a picture with it, right? Look at all the social media people, OpenAI, Facebook, Instagram. All their CTOs and CEOs were sworn in as like officers in the military. So that's all the AI people were sworn in, and this is Googleable. You can just Google this, as like officers of like the National Guard, things like this. So these are just normal everyday folks that serve no time in the military. As far as I'm concerned, you serve in the military and fight for our freedoms, you're a hero, right? But now they're putting like these people in charge of things and making them the link between whatever Palantir is doing and the rest of the world, right? So Palantir, they have all this that they're working with already with these systems, but now they have the people in charge of the companies that they're working with directly. So it's scary when it comes to Palantir, and it's scary because it's just happening right in plain sight. They're even telling you they're doing it, and nothing can be done about it. So the thing is they don't want us talking about these things. They don't want us discussing them. They don't want us bringing things up. They don't want to see two teams. They don't want that all. So if you ever watch this Palantir, or anybody out there that has disagreements with it, we're just going to keep talking about it. And then when you have a problem, we're going to talk about it even more. So just keep that in mind. If you want that as a data point, keep it to yourself. With Palantir, it just raises a lot of questions without the answers that you can never have. And it's because they don't have the answers. They're up to some shady stuff. What's your thoughts on Palantir, Susie? And we'll come to a conclusion with Palantir.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Just asking.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Just, the fact that we have gotten to this point, how did we get here? is one of my biggest questions. And why did they allow this? Where it kind of goes back to all the corporations that have gotten a little bit too big and decided that they're people and that they can vote and that they can control things politically, which, not to get overly political here, but it is an issue where they've overreached themselves to control people. And it does come out to control, power, money, analyzing us, our behaviors, and knowing every single thing that we do. It's not right. I didn't bring up my children to live in this kind of world, and I don't want to leave this kind of world for my children to have to deal with.
And those are good points. And that's the thing, is they do just want this for control and power. Then they admit it, and they're at the helm of it. So it can't be theorized that they aren't doing this for control and power, and that they are doing this for our safety and save kids and all this. But that's the thing, is it's just, it can't be trusted is the big thing. And that's, it really raises the question, what can we do, to rally against this and bring these topics up to other people. But here's the thing, is like, when it comes to excuses like national security, I'm absolutely certain that, these are the guys that live that life. They do that stuff. When it comes to things like national security, they're probably already at the level of where they can control everything anyways, right? They probably already have it on lockdown. So building these more of these things and then using things like national security is just more bullshit. It's just more bullshit when they say it's to stop online Kids Act stuff. All it took was one little lobby group in Australia to get credit card companies and gaming companies to ban porn. Like it's insane that it's like that. It was just some Christian group, that wanted porn banned. Cool, if you want that to happen. But look, all the countries did it all at once at the same time. So there's people lobbying for things that aren't in our best interests, whether it's arguable or not. But that's the thing, is it's just showing that if we do come together and we do bring these topics up, we can bring change. It's proven. It's absolutely proven that we can. And John, you mentioned Supreme Court, and they're just one group, right? They're just one set of in the system. They're kind of sitting back waiting to go with the flow and make a ruling on things before they can make a ruling on things. But that ruling needs to be now. Like, it needs to be nipped in the bud now. And that's the thing, is with
100%.
technology moving faster than politics and I don't know the word for it, government and I'm just calling it the systems, right? The matrix. The technology moving faster than the political stance on things, and faster than people can consume this information and become aware of what's happening. That's the gray area that they operate in, and by the time all is said and done, they've already done it. So by the time we get it banned or legislation passed against us, or absolute protection against it, or new ideologies that people adopt, they've already exploited the absolute hell out of us. And that's what they're doing. And they're doing it. Private companies are doing this to sell our data. I don't know what governments are using it for. It's nothing for our benefit. I know that. And that's the thing, is these third-party companies like Palantir and stuff, I don't want to know what they're doing it for. I just want them to all stop. Like, knock it off. Give us a way to be protected from the bad people that can get their hands on this data. And they are, and they do. This is an everyday thing. We just saw Discord get hacked. We see like hospitals getting hacked all the time, and the data is being held for ransom. So why not like use your powers to protect us all from the world's bullshit at that level? And like, you would think like these are the dudes that can do it, right? These are the ones that, they can steal all of our information anyways. Well, how about protect our information? And that's the thing, is we're just babies on the NFL field with this, right? Because you mentioned that there's only tens of millions of dollars for like going floating around for these companies. Electronic Frontier Foundation, Fight for the Future. We've worked with these guys in the past. Like, we're good friends with these people. And it's true. Like, the funding is just isn't there, because why would people, or where's the money at for funding protection and privacy when it already feels like a lost game? And it's not a lost game. In fact, the game is just starting. Is what's really happening is now they're showing their true colors in this world. They are really showing their true colors. They're holding cameras to people's faces in the streets and stuff to put them in a domestic terrorist database. I mean, that's actually really fucked up. They're in the ring camera stuff in the flock cameras, and it's there. It's there, and it's one of those things that I'm not going to accept it. There isn't any timeline or any variation of timelines in which I would accept this bullshit to keep happening around me. And that's why I think we're all here on the stream, and that why we want people to have a voice. Having a voice is the biggest and most important part of this. So we're going to try and close out the discussion here, John. It's absolutely wonderful having you here. We just have a few more questions, and then we can move on with the day. I know it's a long stream, but I think this is important.
Shane, if I could share just a couple more things real quick.
Absolutely.
This is from the video that I made about Palantir. Palantir's stock, their market cap, which is number of outstanding shares times the price of the stock, their market cap nearly quadrupled between the November 2024 presidential election and about September of 2025. And when you think about a company's stock quadrupling in value, how does that happen? Well, this is some of the contracts. I just did a search for government contracts to Palantir Technologies, and here they are in descending order, and these are just the most recent ones. And I want to stress, this did not start under the current administration. This goes all the way back to the Obama administration, the first Trump administration, the Biden administration. Palantir has been a part of this for a long time, but it did accelerate a lot recently. So these are the federal government contracts to Palantir. This is a $100 million contract, a $43 million contract, etc. And this is the agency who awarded the contract. So the 10 biggest contracts that Palantir got from the federal government were all ICE contracts. But that's not the end of the story. Google has had a lot of privacy issues over the years. These are just since 2019. Google has lost, either in fines or lawsuits, Google has lost $2.9 billion since 2019 over privacy issues. And Google was the one who pulled back from Project Maven, saying, we don't want to be a part of this. And that's when Palantir jumped in and took over Project Maven. And what Project Maven was all about, as I mentioned earlier, was taking video streams from drones and then using it to target individual targets and selecting weapon systems for it. And that's what they've been doing. Alexander Karp was the one that was bragging about what Palantir does. And this is his quote. Palantir is powering the kill chain. And you can see right here, this is a screenshot from Palantir's website. Gotham's targeting offers support soldiers with AI-powered kill chain, seamlessly and responsibly integrating target identification and target effector pairing. What that simply means is they brag about shortening the kill chain. And there are other places where they talk about what used to take hours can now be done in minutes. Okay, why did it take hours before? Well, a soldier looking at a computer monitor sees something that he thinks is a target, and there is a vetting process to make sure that that really is a target and not an innocent person. And then it has to go up through the command chain to make a decision, are we going to fire a missile at it? And Palantir was bragging about, we made this so much more efficient. We now have AI-powered kill chains. Okay, let's see what happens. When the United States pulled out of Afghanistan, we lost 13 soldiers due to a suicide bomber that showed up at the airport as everyone was leaving Afghanistan. Here's what we know about the 13 U.S. service members killed in the Kabul airport attack. That number is grossly understated. There were 13 American soldiers killed, but there were over 100 Afghani civilians killed. Nobody ever talks about them. But What happened within about 24 hours of this suicide bombing? I remember. This is August 29th. Department of Defense strike in Kabul. Tragic mistake kills 10 civilians. What was that tragic mistake? We put a Hellfire missile through a Toyota Corolla that we believed had terrorists. No, it had 3 adults and 7 children in it. 10 innocent civilians were killed because we put a Hellfire missile through a Toyota Corolla. And the question is, why did we do that? Well, somebody or something identified that Toyota Corolla as a threat. And we put a missile through it. We killed 10 innocent people. And I've listened to the explanation, and they basically say mistakes were made. Can you elaborate? Nope, national security. We can't elaborate on that. How did you come to think that there were terrorists in that vehicle? Well, we made a mistake. Okay, I want to be real clear here for legal reasons. I am not accusing Palantir of being the one that made the mistake. But here's what I will tell you. Palantir had the contract for putting artificial intelligence in charge of identifying targets. About 24 months after Palantir took over targeting using their AI, we blew up 10 innocent people because a mistake was made in targeting. Was Palantir behind this? I can't prove it, and the military won't talk about it because of national security, but somebody or something made a mistake and killed 10 innocent people, and Palantir brags about, we speed up the kill chain decisions using artificial intelligence. So I will let people draw their own conclusions on that.
And that's the thing is when Google denied that contract with the Maven, as you mentioned, because they didn't want to be a part of it, it was actually because their entire engineering team that was working on these AI systems said specifically that they absolutely refuse to allow Google to push forward with these contracts. I was actually around when that happened to see that stuff happen in real time. And it was like for weapons defense systems and then the actual weapons to annihilate people using the AI and like Israel things wherever there's war at. And then all of a sudden now we're seeing things like Palantir come into place around that time frame, as you mentioned. They've been here for a long time, but then they got all that funding from that was U.S. immigrations. So I mean that kind of paints a clear picture. I mean if they're holding cell phones to our faces, I think that kind of tells us everything that we need to know. But it's good to know that there was the entire engineering team, and it's like hundreds of people. They all said no, this contract needs to end. And Google, of course, was like, yeah, we got to end this contract. So it's one of those things that if you go down the rabbit hole, you'll be down the rabbit hole for a minute. And I'm glad you went down that rabbit hole, John, and you were able to share that with us. That's actually a lot of great data that you have collected there, and I'm absolutely humbled that you're making these and making these videos as well. So that's the thing is to open up some discussion here before we close out. Here's the main question here is, and this is for all of you, is are we approaching a point where opting out of surveillance is no longer realistic? And I want to just share my thoughts on that briefly, is that I don't think we're at a point where it's no longer realistic. I think we're at a point now where we need to raise awareness so that it remains realistic, is what I think. What are your takes on this?
I've used this analogy before, and it goes hand in hand with my football analogy with the surveillance titans and civil liberty sentinels. I picture it as it's the beginning of the fourth quarter and we're down by 3 touchdowns. Is the game over? No. But do we have a lot of work to do and a short time to do it? Yes. It is not in my nature to give up. It's just not my nature. I will not give up. There's too much at stake. And so I am going to work my heart out to make sure that that we don't lose this. And that's why I am doing everything I can. I make these videos. I spend hours and hours doing the research so that I can drop the receipts in my videos. But I am going to do everything I can to inform people about what's going on. And I'm going to trust that as people learn about what's going on, they're going to be upset about it, and that they're going to start making noise about it, and that we're going to start turning the tide. Because right now, the game's not over, but we're behind. And this is not the time to take a knee out on the sideline and say, it's over, let them have it. No, we only have one country, and I don't want to move. And I'm really not even sure where I would move, but I'm not going to give up without a fight. And I will fight this to my dying day if I have to, but I will not give up on this. So have we passed that point of no return? I don't think we have yet, but are we approaching it? Definitely.
I wholeheartedly agree. What's your take on this, Chris? Are we at the point of no return?
No, like, I mean, as we discussed last week, you always have the option to go live like Ted Kaczynski and just completely leave society. And it is possible. It's not great, but that is still an option. But as far as living a normal life and getting to interact with all of you, and then on an individual level, I think today it's probably too late for most people. As far as if right now, today, they want to protect themselves, it's not necessarily possible. But that's why we all do need to get loud and make a lot of noise and come together and get active in our local communities and start affecting the legislation and get these things removed from our cities. As we've seen, it's possible. Single people like Jonathan from Bend, Oregon made it happen. And there's a lot of people like that who are doing this. And that's the only way out of this. We all have to work together and just say, no, we're not okay with this. And we have to push back and get it removed, because there is no way to go live a normal life in society today and not be under constant surveillance. So the only way out is we have to get rid of the surveillance. I think you're muted.
Oh, well,
sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead, Nathan. And I absolutely agree with you, Chris. Sorry about that.
just
Yeah,
to,
go ahead, Nathan.
yeah, to piggyback off another thing that John said with the Sun Tzu, one of his famous quotes is, "Never interrupt your enemy while it makes a mistake." And I think that one is actually wrong, because I think we do need to be interrupting our enemies. And that's why we are all here talking, speaking, bringing up these subjects and topics. And we need to show our voice and not just hide and speak. And I think that's what really can determine the future for everyone. Like everyone is said on this show, like it's not just about us, it's about the future generations as well. Where does all this AI stuff lead to, and what type of future are we leaving to our children? Like, this is all of this stuff is clearly madness. So that's just what I wanted to bring up.
Indeed, madness. And that's the thing, is I grew up and I was hacking things when I was 10 years old, right? I was messing with all the cool things. I love technology. I've loved my entire life. But that's the thing, is like, I kind of had my eyes open at a way younger age. And I used to think like, oh, maybe when I become an adult, this will all make sense, right? They're adults. They have it all figured out. And then I become an adult, I'm looking around and I'm asking the same damn questions that I asked when I was a kid. And it's like, holy shit, it really is this bad. Like it's that bad. And it's bad. So let's get your take on this, Carissa. What are your thoughts? Are we at the point of no return?
Chris is out.
Oh, she lost her internet.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Can't
Susie,
go.
how you doing? What are your thoughts on? Are we
Okay.
at the point of no return?
I don't know, but I think that it doesn't matter. We need to fight against this, and we can't be having this kind of push on us. We're being pushed over at this point. And I can't say I have all the answers, but I know that what they're implementing right now is not the answer. And once again, I don't want to leave this kind of world for my children. They're my world, and I want this, I want this world to be a better place than it's becoming. And it's not because, I don't want to protect children because I don't want cameras to catch the bad guys. It's because I don't want people to use those things against my children.
And that's the thing too, and if they don't just use against your children, they'll use it against your children's beliefs and the things they want to be a part of. You want to go to a certain university, things like this. And oh, well, this university is mostly left swinging, and so they're the bad guys. They're the ones that are radical. And all of a sudden, the thing is people are being lumped into groups in which they do not belong, because people change, people grow. And as young adults become the people that they choose to be, that's between them and the good Lord. Whatever we may believe, that's between them and who they wish to share that with. And that's what privacy really is about. And that's the thing, is that's what we're trying to do with our company at VP is I have a question here. How should society balance innovation with civil liberties when the pace of technology outstrips regulation? So I skipped over a question there. How can we give consent, and how can we opt out? And that's the thing, is I really think that's the biggest thing that will be identified moving forward, because we can't give consent. That's the thing, is you can't give consent to be surveilled, like from 6 ways to Sunday, private, government, third parties, and then people holding up their phones at you and recording you while they do TikTok videos, things like this. So there is no way to consent. So how should society balance innovation with civil liberties when the pace of technology outstrips regulation? And the answer for this, and from my perspective, is there is no balance. What's needed is zero trust architecture, zero trust systems in which data can pass through and be controlled without anybody being able to look in. That's the thing, is when it comes down to who do you trust with corporations or government, it's not about corporations or government. I don't want to trust these things. I don't want to have that. I don't want to be disappointed when that trust becomes violated. And that's because, as I grew up from a child to now, I was so deeply disappointed with, hey, life is full of disappointments, right?
Well, and who hasn't had their data stolen at this point in their life, right?
Exactly. Like, that's the thing, we've all had it happen, and we've all had it happen to some degree. And we've had it happen to the degrees that we know about, whether it's somebody hacking our email, things like this, or
And
if
it could
it's just,
not even be your fault. It could just be like, oh, I'm an AT&T customer, so now I've had my data stolen for no reason and no fault of my own.
Susie on the daily gets like notifications that her information has popped up on the dark web. She's like, oh, look, a new website lost my email. And it's like, wow, like, that's crazy. I go look up my old emails from growing up and stuff, and those emails got leaked out there, like, with passwords. So it's one of those things that it do be like that. So how should society
Shane, I have to
balance-
share a thought on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You asked earlier about why there isn't more enforcement, or why aren't more resources going after the hackers that are breaking in, stealing our data, and leaking it on the dark web. I cannot prove this. So again, as I said earlier, I'm not stating this as fact. I'm stating this as opinion. But I can't help but wonder if there aren't people in powerful places that actually like our data being stolen, because it's real easy to go suck it up off of the dark web. Flock Nova.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to be clear. Flock denies that you have to look at how they word this on their website. They state that Flock does not provide dark web data. Okay, it doesn't say they don't use it, doesn't say they don't collect it. It says they don't provide it. So
Exactly.
You tell me, why did they word their disclaimer that way? We don't provide dark web data.
That's legalese.
Yeah, it's that legal mumbo jumbo.
I have some information that a security researcher shared with me from Flock Nova. This is source code. And I made a video about this. The video is about Flock Nova, search once, see everything. And the screenshots provided to me from a security researcher, it appears, and Flock has not denied it, If a police officer pulls you over and they use Flock Nova, all they need is one piece of information to get everything else. In the source code, it appears they can take your license plate, they can take your name, they can take your social security number, your phone number, or your email, any one of those. And that is the key for pulling up your life story. What can they get? Well, those other pieces of information. Give me one, they can pull up the others. It also appears like they can pull up your crypto wallet. They can pull up if you have been to certain adult websites. Now, the screenshot that I saw wasn't every adult website on the internet. The ones that I saw appeared from the names, and I'm not an expert on this, but it appeared like the websites on the screenshot looked like they were escort related. And but it would show there was a counter. How often has somebody been to this website? How often has somebody been to this website? So my suspicion is a guy gets pulled over in a area known for prostitution. The officer that pulls them over can look and see, you know, were you on an escort website last night where you may be coming over here to meet someone? But being able to see that, being able to see crypto wallets, being able to see whether you have a Telegram account. Now, it doesn't look like you could actually get Telegram messages, but it would indicate, do you have a Telegram account? All of this information comes up like that when you put in the person's license plate number. And again, I don't know anybody who consented to this. This is being done, and this is where I really believe we need legislation passed, or the courts have to weigh in, or hopefully both, to start giving us some degree of protection back. And, you know, again, I can hear people saying, well, if you aren't doing anything wrong, keep in mind what you're doing today may be considered wrong 3, 4, 5 years from now. That is no guarantee
Exactly.
that you're not going to be in trouble yourself one of these days.
Yeah, that is true, and it's ever changing and ever evolving, and yeah, I absolutely I do not agree with that. Like, you know, there's the old databases like the NCIC where, you know, if people are convicted of crimes or they're charged with crimes or on bail, these things like that. It's common. You need to know these things, right? It's one of those things that's normal policing. But things like your private, like web history, you know, that's crazy. That's absolutely insane that they can pull up the porn websites that you've been to and escort services. And that's the thing is like, uh, wow, like imagine being pulled over and then they're like, oh, did you get this off of Amazon yesterday? We see that you bought this. We see that you bought some bullets. What are you going to do with these bullets? These types of things. And it's absolutely scary and insane that they can pull these things up on people, and bypass the level of needing to know your constituents of you know, your area, you know, the people that live there, the human beings that live there. And that's the thing is it is very much like that. And that's why, you know, I look into these things every day, and they fingerprint you, and they're able to get information on you and about you because we have unique fingerprints in our everyday behaviors. A human can only act so many different ways, right? We eat food, we go to the store, you know, we drive to the library, these types of things. There's only so many things that we can do because things that we can't do are unknown to us, right? And that's where innovation, things like this come in. But they're able to fingerprint us on how we walk, how we talk, how we act, how the people around us influence us. All these things that we can, if you can think about it, they've already thought about it and they've done it, and it's here. That's the thing. It's here. It's very much here. And that's what scares me the most about all this. But I'm not one to live in fear. And you mentioned taking it to the grave and stuff, fighting for this. And I think that's everything we agree on, too. I tell my CEO often, and I'm not sure if he likes it, but I told him I'm going down with 2 middle fingers in the air. That's the thing. You're going to put me in the grave, and I'm going down at least, like, if it's worth the fight, at least throw a punch. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things, but it's not that we want to fight in the sense of we want to cause disruption to all these things. We're good, honest people. Doing good, honest work, and we believe in the ability to have some space. We believe in the ability to have some, like a little bit of our freedom, to where we can have a barbecue and not be on 87 different cameras. So, and then we deserve to have a little better than some, you know, people like Peter Thiel going around talking about the Antichrist while like literally like surveilling every aspect of our life, knowing how many breaths we take, which they can do, how fast our heart beats, which they do from our watches and the smart rings. And they share this information with everybody. That's the thing, is like those private behind the door deals. Those are the ones you got to worry about. It is absolutely crazy. And that's the thing, is it's so widely adopted for just accepting these technologies. Like, I want to know my steps too, when I'm walking around. But I don't want like that to go into the cloud. Like, I would prefer like that data be sent back home. But then how do I know the data being sent back home isn't being intercepted too and deciphered, that, they may not be able to get the data, but they know that the data was sent there, so that they have they have an idea of what that data could be, right? And when you have an idea of what that data can be, you can use your predictive analysis to determine what that data is, whether it's a message, whether it's you viewing a website. They can use this predictive analysis on us to pretty much write our own story before we've even written it. And I do have a big issue with that. I have a major issue with that. So that's the thing, is it's the things where some things are worth fighting for, and I think privacy is truly one of those things. I truly do. With all this said, we're going to do a short video real quick. Chris, if you could lead us into the hero of the week. We are doing a hero of the week, John, because we want to acknowledge that good, the good people out there, the good people that are doing the fight, the good people that, that really resonate with others, and to us, they're heroes. To us, you're a hero. I just want you to know that. So just know that you're a hero. But we're doing hero of the week, and Chris, if you want to roll us into that.
We look for the champions leading the way. Go fight for your internet rights every day. It's freedom and justice that we truly seek. We salute the hide and speak hero of the week.
This week's Hide and Speak Hero of the Week is an organization that didn't just fight surveillance overreach, they outsmarted it. This week, we honor Digital Fort, also known as RT4. Long before anyone was talking about flock cameras in Cambridge, Massachusetts, Digital Fort was already laying the groundwork for accountability. Back in 2018 and 2019, they teamed up with the ACLU to push for and help write the Cambridge Surveillance Oversight Ordinance. This law is simple but powerful. Police cannot buy or use surveillance technology without a public hearing and city council approval. Without that law, the police could have installed flock cameras in secret anytime they wanted. There would have been no hearings, no public debate, and no legal mechanisms to shut anything down later. Digital Fort didn't just show up for the finale, they built the legal cage that made the finale possible. Fast forward to early 2025. The Cambridge Police Department quietly tried to roll out 16 flock license plate reading cameras. Digital Fort launched a campaign with the name you can't forget. Let's stop Cambridge from getting flocked up. They mobilized residents. They educated the community about how flock shares data with federal agencies, including ICE. And because of that pressure, the city council voted unanimously in October 2025 to pause the program and deactivate all 16 cameras. That alone would have been a victory, but the story wasn't over. Even after the city ordered the cameras shut off, Digital Fort didn't relax. They stayed vigilant, and it's a good thing they did. In late November, while the city believed everything was deactivated, flock technicians reportedly installed 2 more cameras under an old work order that should have been canceled. Digital Fort volunteers and local advocates helped verify that something was still happening on the ground. When the city confronted Flock, the company admitted the installations were unauthorized. That was the moment everything changed. On December 10th, 2025, the Cambridge city manager officially terminated the contract, citing a material breach of trust. And that breach only came to light because Digital Fort kept watching the watchers. They provided the technical expertise, the legal backbone, and the community vigilance that the city itself wasn't providing fast enough. So today, we honor you, Digital Fort, not just for winning the fight, but for proving that real oversight doesn't end with a vote. It takes persistence, it takes vigilance, it takes expertise, and it takes people who refuse to look away. Digital Fort, you are our Hide and Speak Hero of the Week.
Hide and Speak Hero of the Week.
Awesome. Heroes indeed. And I just want to say thank you to Dr. Padfield here, John. We just want to know, is there anything you're working on that you want to give a shout out to? You guys can check out his YouTube at Business Reform on YouTube. The link will be in the description. But John, are you working on anything?
Got a couple of videos that are under development right now. I have one coming out probably this coming week about which of the AIs are the most private, which is I have a good friend who used to refer to certain problems as trying to pick up a turd by the clean end. Which AI is the most private? Some are better than others, although I wouldn't trust any of them with anything really personal. In addition to that, I've got the surveillance bingo that will be coming out in about a week, and I just encourage everyone, look at the Civil Liberties Sentinels merchandise if that's something that you're interested in. The whole point of it is striking up the conversations with the people that you know. Let them see that this is something that you support. It'll spark curiosity. It'll lead to some great conversations and give you that opportunity to share with them why you're concerned about the erosion of privacy.
Absolutely. And we absolutely look forward to checking that out. And just know you're always going to have some love and support from us, and not just as the company VP or the stream, but us individually. We really thoroughly enjoy your videos. We enjoy that you have this humble vibe to it, and that you're coming with a lot of knowledge, experience, and wisdom, and you have that engineering mind, but you also have that experience with the real world that I'm not going to get that experience. And that's the thing, is not everybody's going to have these things. So to hear from like giants like you, like leaders from you, is a big thing. So I just want to say thanks again, and then I want to say thanks to Chris, Nathan, Susie, Carissa. And thank you to our audience. I want you guys to check out Jon here's YouTube channel. Show him some love. And then I think with us, there it is, right down there. If you guys can press that like and subscribe button, I guess we have that. If you can show us some love too, that'd be awesome. But thanks again, and it was absolutely wonderful having you all here.
Thank you, Jon.
Yes.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
And thanks to all you guys too for having me.
We build a safe place where the speech is always free, where cypherpunks go to just hide and speak. Hide and speak. We stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak. Digital freedom, yeah, that is our choice. Hide and speak. Privacy doesn't mean not having a voice. Hide and speak. What you want to share is only your choice. Hide and speak.
The early internet was the wild, wild west. Strange. Free. We explored, we broke things, and yes, we failed. No rules. And that was beautiful. But times have changed. We hesitate. We censor ourselves, because we know they're watching. Surveillance kills curiosity, turning the internet from a frontier of hope into a cage of silence. And your VPN? It's based on trust. For let's be real, nobody has ever lied to me, said nobody ever. Yet true privacy is still within reach. vp.net doesn't rely on trust, it runs on real-time proof. Because privacy is about becoming your truest self when no one's watching. So you can be the best you when they are. Otherwise be an NPC, a digital product, and lose. vp.net, don't trust, verify.